Welcome to the first episode of the Dalaran Sewers podcast. The purpose of this podcast is for you to know everything you need to know about Wrath of the Lich King Classic in its lead up to launch. Today's episode is an introduction to Wrath of the Lich King Classic, where we discuss everything from the recent announcement news, raids, professions, classes, achievements, and much more. Join us on our 16-episode journey, which will include deep dives into each class, economy discussions, expectations from Wrath of the Lich King, and so much more. With some amazing guests already lined up over the next 5 months, it's a podcast you do not want to miss. Your co-host of the show are myself, Scottejaye, and a YouTuber you're bound to know if you've ever typed in the words Wrath of the Lich King into your search bar. Of course, that person is Rugs. Our special guests today are Blazing Bob of the Warcraft Reloaded podcast, and Tara, who has seen more Wrath of the Lich King servers over the years than I've seen non-alcoholic beverages. With all that out of the way, strap in, grab a beer, and let's go. And that's it. Welcome. Hello, Tara, Bob, Rugs. What's going on?
Hello.
Hey.
Yo,
Hello.
dude, thanks for setting this up, Scotty. I'm pumped, man.
Thanks for having us.
Just glad you all turned up. That's the worrying thing, isn't it? Obviously, I knew Rugs was going to be here. He's going to be here every week. So for those who don't know, me and Rugs are the regulars. We're going to be here. I say week in, week out. It's going to be quite sporadic, but next episodes will be announced before the end of this episode, essentially. But yeah, it's not weekly, bi-weekly. They're set up around a lot of sort of big streamers and content creators' schedules. So we don't want to mess about too much with babbling on during the intro. So we're going to just jump straight into who everyone is. I mean, I'm sure there's at least one or two of us that you probably know already or have seen on other podcasts and stuff. So we'll just jump in straight to the intro. And thank you to everybody, by the way, that's sort of been sat here waiting for. I mean, some of you have been sat here for about 3 hours. I don't know what you've been doing, but anyway, let's jump in straight with the intro. And we're going to start with Bob. We're just going to work our way down. I'll introduce Bob, and then we'll have Rugs introduce Tara. So, Bob, hello.
Hey. Hello.
So,
thank you for having me.
I mean, you need a big thanks, really, from us for turning up, because tell everyone where you are at the moment.
I am in downtown Kansas City at Planet Comic. So, taking a break to come talk to you guys, and then it's back to nerd life.
It's amazing. Especially, you got me really excited when we was just getting set up and said that you was sat or stood next to somebody getting a coffee that's actually from DC Legends of Tomorrow. So, as a geek like me, that is pretty epic.
Jess was like right next to me. She's the one that played she plays the love interest of the main girl. I watched the show, but I forget their names on the show. But she's the tall, blonde, dirty blonde girl.
Nice. Right. All right. So, look, Bob, tell us a little bit about your WoW experience. We'll get into sort of everything you do outside of that in a minute.
Okay. My WoW experience is a lot different from a lot of content creators. I didn't play any private server, but I did. Something that's a little unique about me is I did do everything at the top level, in vanilla and in Wrath. I took a break from raiding throughout TBC and just did PvP, but I did that at top end too back in the day. So, I mean, like I was like on my server in vanilla. We were the second ones on this server, the first ally to kill Neff and Cthulhu. So I've done a lot, then in Wrath. We were actually, I was always just like never the best on the server, but we were number 2 to kill Sarth with 3 drakes up and Yogg with no lights. So I've definitely played at the highest end. Now I play a little bit more casually in Classic, but we still, I'm still in a guild that killed Vash and KT pre-nerf and all that. So
are you planning on going quite hard in Wrath? Planning on going back to your roots of being hardcore, or still taking it casual?
I'm loving the guild that I'm in, and it's it's not a ton of pressure. I'm still a half 99 parser. So I've got half 99s, half 98s, 90s, like 97. So I still take it pretty seriously. It's just I'm not in one of those guilds like Sarth or someone like that. And I kind of like it like that. That's kind of like what I do is I just do kind of the little bit like I think people have called it sweaty casual.
I love how there's
I
a
like
title
that.
for everything. And there has to be, it don't matter how you play the game, there's got to be some sort of title. But no, that's cool. Well, yeah, thanks for that. I've got to put you all on the spot. Sorry, everyone who's watching has got to know who we all are. I mean, I don't mind answering some awkward questions from one of you in a minute. You can ask me anything you want. And I know you'd probably love to do that, Bob, to be fair. So where, it's a bit of a two-part question. Like, where do you play, as in what server do you play on, and where can people find you? So, once the podcast's finished, where can they go and see your content or listen to you? Or
Okay. So basically, we were on White Main forever for the start of Classic, and then here, pretty recently, White Main just started to die. Now it's dead for Alliance. Like, we just had to leave. There was no one left to recruit. We couldn't walk anywhere. We couldn't get into SSC without about 6 to 7 deaths, before we got in, and it had just gotten out of hand. So I pushed for us to go to Grobulus, but we ended up going to Benediction. And so that's where we're at now. It's a whole different world. Like, just it's weird to go from being the underdog for so long for years, and now all of a sudden there's just no horde. It's just it's the weirdest thing ever.
Tara and I actually had the exact same experience. We were on White Main as well, and we went to Benediction.
Oh wow! Okay,
yeah.
Okay.
Everyone left White Main, and I went there. That's really upsetting.
What guild were you in?
We were in a guild called Third Shift. We were like a super late night North American raiding guild, and we left. We saw the trend of Horde dominating White Main, and we just jumped ship like as soon as we could, and all 25, 26 raiders just like all went to Benediction.
Yeah, we lost nobody. Everybody came. Even some socials came, which we were like, huh, okay. But yeah, it was definitely the right decision. We probably held on a little too long. Like it had gotten crazy. Like it was a ghost town in Stormwind. So, but we're happy now. But yeah, as far as my content, I really don't do guides or anything like that. I leave that up to the real big brains. I do a podcast called Warcraft Reloaded. We do it live on my channel on twitch.tv/BlazinBob, BLAZZINBOB. But I would recommend, if you're going to check it out, check out the audio version. It gets a lot of love in post, and it's on anything that you could get a podcast on. Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, whatever you use, it is there. So yeah, that's basically all I do. And we normally have guests on. I love to bring on other opinions, and we have had a lot of different guests. We have some guests that reoccur. Like it, we really try to spice it up, but it's really just kind of about the classic life. And it's not like you get tips and tricks at times, especially when we have like really smart people come on, but we don't run the show as if we pretend we know everything, because we don't. That's why we bring on the big brains like you guys.
Well, your Twitch has just been linked in YouTube chat anyway, and I'll put obviously everybody's details in the video description, and we'll post them all in Twitch chat and YouTube chat at the end anyway. But yeah, I mean, I love your podcast. I must admit, I was probably a little bit late to the party with it, but I listen to you and Mel very, very regularly now. Well, every episode you put out. I mean, there was one episode you done recently which was absolutely amazing. You had a alcoholic British guy on there, but we won't talk about that. So
it was a good one. Yes, it was a good one. You were pretty funny, man. It was a really good time.
You say funny, other people say cringe. All right, cool. Let's rattle through these last two. So what will your main be in Wrath of the Lich King, Bob? And why? Why are you choosing that character?
I'm going Rogue. Rogue is what I played really exclusively Vanilla and Wrath. I played Warlock and TBC, but then switched back to Rogue mid TBC too. Like Rogue's just like where I feel the most comfortable. When I came back to Classic, I I rolled Warrior because I just wanted to hear what all the hype was about. I'm glad I did that, but it's time to go home. It's time to go home.
Absolutely makes sense. Yeah, I mean, Rogue's a good shout as well. Rugs and Tara. I mean, Tara, you've been on probably, from what I've heard, more Wrath servers than probably me and Rugs combined. So, what's your opinion on Rogues? Is he making a good choice?
I think rogues are going to be super good. So if you want to keep parsing, then that's probably a good idea for you. Because early on, you're assassination, and you don't need that much gear to just be top on single target. And then later on, you can go combat with the armor pen and keep up with everybody else. So it's gonna be great.
Yeah.
In terms of like trending classes, there are a couple that come to mind. Like people are getting hyped to go play Rep Paladin and Wrath, and I always try to like temper that like trend. But the people who are getting hyped to go play Rogue, like have fun, go for it. Like Rogue is a great choice. Like if that's like where your roots are, like get back in it, man. You're gonna love it. Yeah.
And the raid loves rogues because of tricks of the trade.
Tricks is awesome. Yeah, and it's and it gives you a little bit of power. You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, do you want my tricks this time? Okay. All right.
Yeah, you'll be able to make some gold, Bob. That's what it comes down to. You're going to be able, you're going to have to sell that tricks all the way through the raid. So, I mean, that's banging. Right, last one. So, this I'm hoping we all don't say the same thing here, but what's the one thing, if you had to focus on one element of Wrath? It could be the fact that you're going to be playing a rogue. It could be anything, a system that's introduced. What's the one thing that you're most excited for in Wrath?
Dual spec.
Good answer.
Amen.
I've been wanting it for so long. I was asking for it week 2 of freaking Classic when it first came out. So yeah, I'm pretty I like to PvP and I like to PvE, and it drives me nuts that I have to keep swapping all of the time, and like I want to just go do a BG before raid, just one. But I'm not gonna respec to do that. You know what I mean? Like I can't freaking wait.
Man, I feel like we could spend half the podcast talking about that because I'm right there with you. We should already have dual spec in the game.
Heck yeah, we should.
I don't think it breaks anything. Like that's just a good thing to have.
Well, we're definitely going to talk a lot about it later, without a doubt, just because of a minor comment that was mentioned in a recent interview, but we will get to that. Rugs, would you like to introduce Tara for us?
Yeah, so before I give it away to Tara, let me just first say Tara is one of my closest, if not the closest gamer friend I've ever made. She's an absolute Chad gigapumper when it comes to any class or role that she picks up. Seriously, like the best healer in the raid when she's healing, and one of the best, if not the best DPS when she's DPSing. She is absolutely goated. Do not sleep on Tara at all. And if you guys come to my channel and you trust my advice on Wrath, like you have to trust Tara with every single word she says as well, because she knows, if not the same as me, more. She's goated. So Tara, tell us, what is your WoW experience with retail, private servers, classic? Take it away.
So I first like to joke that I'm also in I've been playing since vanilla crew, except that I was like 6 years old. So my parents played. I've played my whole life. I didn't start seriously playing until maybe the last 5 years or so, which mostly has been on private servers. So like Rug said, like Scott said, I've played a bunch of private servers, at least 5 or 6 Wrath ones, a bunch of Kata ones. That's most of my experience. I've been playing classic TBC, which is my first TBC experience, and it's been pretty cool. And so most of my experiences with Wrath.
Kata private servers. Oof, controversial. Talk about split the room straight away. No messing about. No, I'm with you. I like Kata as well. Sorry, go on, carry
on. Tara, so tell us, are you going to pick up streaming again, and where can people find you if they're interested in following you? Because, I mean, I remember the last private server we were playing on, Crix and I would be raiding, and everyone in my chat and in his chat would just be like, who's Tara? Why is Tara #1 DPS as Hunter? Like, where can I go see Tara?
Yeah, so I used to stream. It's been off and on. I really have been meaning to pick up streaming again. I'm definitely going to for Wrath Classic. As I have been playing private servers, it's a little bit sketchy. But my Twitch is called It's Terra 01. I'll definitely be streaming more in the next coming weeks and months with Classic coming out. And like we talked about before, I play Alliance Benediction.
I'm
And
pretty
what are you
sure
gonna
we'll
be?
have somebody put your Twitch. Sorry, Rugs. We'll have someone put your Twitch details, i.e., Mincy, will link those in YouTube for us once he's gone and found you.
We can get Euroflip to
Thank
do it. He's in chat. He knows it. Tara, what's your main going to be in Wrath and why?
So I'm tentatively playing Enhance for my main in Wrath. And why? Because I'm playing a shaman now. I like to keep that continuity of my character, first of all, but I didn't want to heal. So Enhance in Wrath is way more fun in TBC than in TBC, so don't come at me. I'm just gonna say it. It's way more fun in Wrath, so that's what I'm gonna play.
Tell us, is Valinir enhanced prio?
It should be for me.
Right.
What's the one thing you're most excited about for Wrath Classic?
Honestly, what Bob said earlier about that whole coming home aspect, just like playing with a group of people that you like to play with and just, getting to experience it all together, all, in one continuous tier cycle is going to be awesome. That's what I'm most excited for.
So I thought that was the last question. I was about to go, right, anyway, Rugs. I was getting a bit carried away. I'm excited, boys and girls. Sorry, everybody. We won't do the whole WoW experience. I'm sure everyone knows mine and Rugs' WoW experience at least, and where they can find us. But for anyone who's first time seeing Rugs, obviously I will put all of these details in the description below. But you'll be seeing a lot of him over, not just over the coming weeks and months up till Wrath. I'd imagine all the way through Wrath and beyond. So, yeah, I'll put where you can find him.
What are you two most looking forward to, though?
Go on, Rugs.
Ooh.
You can go first.
Okay, so I thought Bob and Tara had some cute answers because mine is definitely not cute. I'm more on the side of what I'm looking forward to with Classic Wrath is straight up the competition. I am hype for hype. Like, hype leads to population, and population leads to more good gamers. And the more good gamers there are, the more top guilds there are, the more 99 parsers there are, and the harder it will be to stand out as a good player. And I love that. One of my favorite private servers that I played on was a Frosthold Sunwell, and I feel like that one was so good because there were so many good guilds. The Realm First races were actually like fun to watch. And anytime like a Realm First race is fun to watch, like I'm hooked. Like I'm literally so hooked. That shit is it's intoxicating. I love the competition. So even though Wrath Classic might be an easier version than like buffed servers that Tara and I might be used to and Scotty might be used to, I think the fact that it's going to be so popular just makes it unbelievably exciting for me.
Well, and rotations are a lot more fun too. I'm not going to say they're hard, but it definitely more to do on many classes and many specs than we've seen yet in Classic through Vanilla and TBC.
Yeah, and even also like speed running. We're gonna actually push this game to its limits, which is something like we've been lazy about with private servers. Like we'd rather just split run and just like clear the content, get loot, get ready for the next tier. Like actually like caring about farm content and speed running and min-maxing your raid every single ID. Like holy shit, man, Wrath is gonna be amazing for that. I'm so pumped for it.
It is back to Bob's point though. It's going to be interesting just on the. This morning, literally, you all know I like to have a beer, especially on a Friday night. So I was doing a Karazhan last night during a few beers. And this morning I was just looking at recount details, and looking at like the mages and the warlocks. There was 2 warlocks and there was a mage. In a 10-man, that's it's half your DPS. Between them, they only pressed 6 buttons. Between all 3 of them, they pressed 6 buttons. You got 1 warlock on each boss. All he was doing was Doom and Shadowbolt. The other warlock was doing Shadowbolt and Corruption, nothing else. And then the mage, Arcane Blast and Frostbolt. It's like, I can't wait to see the back of that. Get rid of these one-button classes. I think it's going to be a real big shock to some of them.
Well, who was it that it was Sarth who was streaming his Warlock? Every keybind was Shadowbolt.
Yeah.
That was the funniest meme I think I've seen in a while. But I mean, it is true. Although I do have, like, it's weird because I have 3 different buttons for freaking Shadowbolt. I have just like regular. Then I have Trinket, and Destropod Shadowbolt. Then I have all mana consume Shadowbolt button. So I could just kind of switch between those and not have to pop everything. So I only have 3, keybinds for. Yeah,
that's disgusting, dude.
Difficult life that. I mean, I don't know.
It's so easy. Like when I chose Lock going into TBC, like I hadn't done any PvE in TBC, and I knew it was true, but I thought it was still kind of a meme. Like I didn't realize it really was just Shadowbolt, especially later. Yeah, and like now that the gear's the right way, like there's no reason to even go the spec where you use Immolate. So it's literally just Shadowbolt. Like I'm sitting there raiding and I'm taking to drink, like it's horrible.
Well, I remember when Classic TBC came out. It's still my first experience with TBC, and I'm playing a Feral Druid. And Feral Druid has a rotation in my defense. I think like I'm pressing a lot of buttons. And I remember I was in a heroic dungeon with a guildie, and it was again phase 1 early on. And he turned on his share screen on Discord because he was going to show me something on his UI, and he plays a Warlock. And I start watching, and I realize all he's pressing is Shadowbolt, and I lost it. I was so pissed. I was like, what the fuck? I'm doing so much over here to do a fraction of your damage.
And I am pissed for the opposite reason. And like I can't switch roles now. So I'm just stuck till the end of this expansion. And like I hate playing the Warlock so much. So I'm on the opposite. I'm pissed off because I can only hit one button. Like that's why I'm mad.
And what am I excited for?
Yes.
Oh, so there's 2. There's 2 things, but if I have to pick one, it's got to just be the Druid. Feral. Just the massive difference between having to put up with Feral as it was in Vanilla and TBC to then getting what I would call a polished Feral. That in Wrath, it's just, I know Bear don't go through that many changes, let's be honest, but being a cat that can use consumables, can use engineering items, in form, not having to power shift, not having to use a level 40 head, a continuous stream of energy, so everything's more predictable, you can plan things out in advance. And let's be honest, just being able to absolutely dominate if you know how to play. And that for me is it's miles ahead. The close second was Ulduar, by the way, because I do love Ulduar. But yeah, them 2 are miles ahead of everything else. And it is just the fact that seeing a particularly average Feral versus a really good Feral in Wrath it's really satisfying for me.
Mm-hmm.
We had a really good one when I played Wrath. I mean, he was amazing.
Yeah, and I say all the time, and I don't think anyone believes me. I'm like, the difference, like on private servers at least, Wrath servers, I shouldn't say private servers, it sounds naughty, don't it? But you only see really, really good Ferals or really, really bad Ferals. There's you never see that in between where they're just sort of hovering around, I don't know, 6th or 7th on the DPS meter, they're just a bit average. It's either they're full board pumpers or you kick them after one boss because they can't play their class. Yeah, it normally is one extreme to the other. So that is what I am most excited about. Anyway, on to if we're all happy with the introductions, which probably went on a bit long. Have you, Bob or Tara, have you got any questions for me or Ruggs before we carry on?
Let's go.
I mean, like tons, but I don't think we have enough time. I mean, I think we have a lot to get into.
We've got a lot to get through. If we got time at the end, I mean, I have said that there'll be a bit of a Q&A at the end. If anyone in chat's got questions, obviously there's no alert box on screen or anything. So if you do like super chats or donation questions or anything like that, obviously Mincy, shout out to Mincy, he's the man today. He's going to be keeping a log of all that, and we'll go through them at the end. But on that, then, I suppose the thing that we should really go over is the announcement, isn't it? Really, I mean, it's only about a week old, not even that, a few days. How do you feel about it? We'll start with Tara. Any good or bad things that really stick out from it?
I guess something that I was really surprised by was the lack of the RDF. I was kind of surprised that they chose that.
No, you weren't surprised about that.
I
You're
feel like
talking
I
about the
was.
thing
I
that
think
broke
most of the
the
people,
internet?
I think most casual players will be hurt by it, honestly.
Oh,
And
yeah.
on the other hand, maybe it's a hot take. Um, if people, the community aspect is what people, either love it or hate it for. Like me, I only ever dungeon with my guild anyway, so whether there's RDF or not, like it doesn't really matter. If you're someone that interacts with the community, you're going to, and if you don't, then you don't. So that's my opinion.
How did you feel, Rugs, when you saw the announcement?
Um,
Not necessarily just RDF, just the announcement in general. Was you sat there like, this is obvious, we knew it was coming? Was you a little bit shocked that it was announced early? Like, just general feelings around the whole thing, really?
Right. So just the announcement the other day, nothing from like interviews and information included there. Just the announcement itself, I thought was all right. I thought the cinematic and everything was cool. I thought I don't know how you guys felt, but I'm pretty sure they totally debated us with that 2023 and then it switched to a 2 kind of animation. So I thought the announcement was cool and I'm hype. I 100% expected the announcement to come. So there was zero surprise there. I was, and I expressed this in a recent video of mine that brought a lot of heat to my channel and my reputation, but I was pissed about the RDF thing. The fact that that was included in their announcement, like of all things to say in the Wrath Classic announcement, why is like a priority to tell the community like there's going to be no RDF? Like, what the fuck? How is that a selling point? Like, I was so pissed. Like, you could have told us a million different things. Like, maybe just like regurgitate all the things that come with Wrath, and we'd be excited about that. Like, oh, there's dual spec and Winter Grasp is really cool, and Strain of the Ancients, and like so many things that they could have just like given us that would have been like freebie hype. The fact that they told us no RDF was just like infuriating to me. But
Well,
I
I'm
agree.
quickly realizing that through comments and people talking in my Discord that there is a lot of people out there who didn't want RDF, and I never heard them. I never heard them at all.
I'm with Rugs.
And it turns out that there are people who don't want it, and I'm starting to understand where they're coming from. I'm not going to ever agree with them, but I understand them. I hear them now.
Well,
Yeah.
I looked at all the polls that people had put out, like various different YouTubes, and I posted them all on my Discord. And it was, some polls were like 75% in favour of RDF. Some were like 60% in favour. There wasn't a single one that wasn't in favour of Random Dungeon Finder. It was just some that were closer. So I think the closest one I found was 60-40. 60% of the people wanted it, 40% didn't. I mean, there's so much that they could do with it, and we'll talk about that at length, or as much as we get time for. But Bob, what was your thoughts about the announcement overall? As I say, Random Dungeon Finder is going to be something that we dig into a little bit more. So I don't, yeah.
Okay, we're gonna talk about because I've got some interesting stuff to say about that. So I'm excited for that. And Rugs, you weren't the only one mad. The anger, like one of my other hosts on the show, Yip, lost his temper for the first time on the show because that's how passionate he was about it. So I would definitely, it made a lot of people mad. So I definitely get it. But yeah, as far as the announcement, like it was freaking cool. I was like, when I like leading up to it, I was like, are they even going to say anything about Classic? But then when it started and I saw Holly there, I was like, yep, we're going to get it. And then I actually like, I don't care about retail at all, but I loved the freaking, I mean, any cinematic
They're
is
always so cool.
my jam,
Mhm.
dude. I loved that one. And then they gave us kind of a newish one, and like the did you think we had forgotten? Did you think we had forgiven? And I was just like, so I enjoyed every part of it, and then it's kind of mean, but when the RDF thing was upset, like, because I don't really care either. I do everything with the guild too, but like, I just laughed out loud because I was like, people are gonna be so pissed. I can't wait to watch all these raging videos.
I feel like it's
And-
just creating controversy.
yeah,
Why
I
would you
mean,
even
but
need to say it like right now?
Yeah.
Like Ruggs
Yeah.
said, like you could just it just wouldn't be in the game yet later.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
it's
they
a
didn't even
strange one.
talk about dual spec or anything. It was definitely weird. It was like they wanted to know what everyone felt, and so they threw that in there. That's my guess. But yeah, the whole thing overall, I was just happy to know it's coming. And I had been calling 2022 forever, and everybody told me I was crazy. And like, I was just happy because I wanted it 2022. I just like TBC's cool. Like, I'm enjoying it, but it's not Wrath for me. Like, Wrath's my jam. Vanilla number 2, and TBC's my number 3. So I'm just happy it's coming soon, basically.
See, the thing for me as well was, you know, like the whole, all right, they tried to make it look like it was 2023 and it was 2022. That, to me, I thought that was quite funny because even I was a little bit like, oh my God, no way. And then obviously it switched and it was like, oh, GG, Blizz, well done. But the random dungeon finder to speak about it was shocking. I agree with what Ruggs said, you know, as in, why of all the things that come with Wrath, why did you need to speak about the one thing that's going to get everyone's back up? Or, you know, make people be happy, but a smaller percentage be happy, more people be annoyed. But it was more the way they weaved things in that, you know, we only had a survey, what was it, 2 weeks ago? Something like that, talking about boosts and what would come with deluxe editions and all of that. Yet they spoke about these things like it was public knowledge. It was like, well, of course you'll be able to start the DK in the pre-patch. What? Like, sorry, what do you mean? Like, you're saying, and yes, you'll be able to get a 70 boost. But they said it like we knew already. You know you're getting a 70 boost.
I know.
Well, no, we didn't. We didn't know we was getting a 70 boost. We thought we was going to get a 68 paid boost, but now you're saying we're going to get a 70 boost. You know, you don't need level requirements for DKs. We're going to, again, I don't want to go off on a tangent because we are going to go into all of that. But yeah, the whole announcement as a whole for me, I found exciting. Definitely exciting because, you know, I am, Wrath of the Lich King is and probably always will be my favourite expansion. You know, I say that's never going to change. I really like Mop, but let's not go there. But, you know, it's good news, but I just feel like they didn't need to put that sort of sour topping on it by throwing in things that we didn't need to hear about yet.
It's almost like the way they said it, they started with the word obviously. You know, and it wasn't obvious, you know, but it's like they started with obviously this, obviously this, obviously this. It felt that way in the way they put the info out there. I definitely agree with that. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah, and when they speak, you know, say like, you know, it's not a good fit for our community. I mean, you don't know your own community. I mean, it may be your game, but you don't know your community. You know, if you
holy shit, dude, yeah,
they've got no clue. They're so detached, it's ridiculous. You know, if they genuinely got feedback from people, who are the people that they got feedback from? You know, I want to meet those people.
I think they confuse random dungeon finder with raid finder, which a lot of people think was a really bad thing that came in. But I think they're kind of confusing the differences between, like, because I know there's a ton of people that don't like that. The random dungeon finder, I don't know that, like, people had problems with like cross server and stuff like that. But I don't really know anybody. Like, I was bummed. Like, I laughed because I thought it was hilarious and it's gonna be just the internet was gonna break. But I was bummed. Like, I was like, oh, okay. Because I would do more dungeons if, like, I didn't have to mess with it. Like, I would do it before waiting on a guildie, you know. So
you can tell Blazing Bob does
everyone.
Yeah, well, let's get into that, Ruggs. I was about to say, you can see Blazing Bob does his own podcast because what a beautiful way to segue into Random Dungeon Finder next, anyway. So, Ruggs, go. I mean, I think you was about to say what I'm thinking. So, like, it hurts everyone, you were saying.
Yeah, it hurts everyone. Like, not having RDF hurts, in my opinion. This is my opinion. It hurts literally everyone. Everyone from the casual, the dad raid logger, the social gamer, the semi-hardcore guild, all the way to the sweaties in the PvP community. And like everyone hurts from this. I have a really hard time figuring out and like putting myself in the shoes of somebody who didn't want RDF, because to me, everyone wants this. And I can relate to the PvP community here because I'm not a big PvPer, but the PvP community is vocal. Those guys want certain changes with PvP, and a lot of it is accessibility. They want increased honor rates. They got that. They want, solo queue abilities, no arena teams. They got that. And then not having RDF just slows down anyone's progress of getting a PvP set going. It's just like there's so many things that go into like the quality of life of RDF, and everyone gets slowed down from the top all the way to the bottom. Everyone gets slowed down. The questers, the levelers, literally all the way from them to the max level sweaties who need to spam and get as many emblems as they possibly can.
Well, it's the low levels where I think where they'll struggle the most. Actually, is especially how the servers are now, where everything is all about boosts. No one cares about anything else. It's just people do care. I care, actually. When I level a character, I do want to do the odd dungeon on the way up. It's not. Yeah, I would prefer to do it with a group of people my level and do the quests and do all of that. But it's literally impossible to do with Random Dungeon Finder. You will go on, Bob.
Well, there were people that worked up entire characters and just went straight through just doing dungeons, specifically healers and tanks a lot of times, because it was the way that they enjoyed leveling. And it is a very complicated thing, in my opinion. Like, I think the pros definitely outweigh the cons, but I can understand some of the people's cons. And this is what made my co-host so mad, because he was like, there's no reason it shouldn't be in there. Like, he was mad. Like, and I was just like, but you say it's going to slow down everybody. I think there are people that have the opinion that the game is too fast. Like, and I don't get it. You don't get it, but it's the way they like to play, and they do like to talk and mess around and find the group, and they want it to be hard to find the group. They want to hold back people that aren't social enough to get in. Like, they see it as a badge of honor, and like, I get that, but I do think that the pros super outweigh the cons, and for low levels for sure, because it's impossible to get a dungeon no matter what you do. It's all boosts. Like, there's no, unless you're working up with a bunch of buds, like, and most likely they're going to just try to boost you too, instead of actually running with their low level characters in there.
Exactly. So let's say, can we come up with, let's say we'll go with a little mini game for all four of us. And I'm not going to say that this is going to work perfectly. It's, this is not on the show notes. I've just literally thought of this off the top of my head, and I want to see if we could physically, between us, pick one compromise each. So by compromise, I mean you've got Random Dungeon Finder as it is, in a 3.3.5 state, like it is on Warmane, like it is on everything else. So cross server, you get bonus emblems. On low levels, you get bags. You know how it works. So if we was to remove something, or basically make a compromise with Blizzard, and between us we make 4 different compromises. Tara, you going first. What one thing would you remove? Or if you want me to go first, I can go first. But like one thing that you could remove from it to go, well, that will stop people complaining about the social aspect, or that will stop people complaining about, I don't know, whatever else they complain about. I don't listen to them.
I know most people complain about the cross-server aspect, which would be easy to just not implement. Okay, I'll walk that back. People that will complain about it in one way, that they don't want cross-server, are on the mega servers. The people that are on the servers with like 1,000 people, they're going to want cross-server so that they can actually queue into stuff. So I guess there would have to be some kind of like, I don't know, like gauge of whether
Scotty
your
had a
server
really
should cross or not.
Scotty had a really good idea on my show that like is kind of like what you were saying, but it adds on to it.
I can't remember what I said. I've come up with loads of ideas since then. I'll be honest with you. If you was waiting for me to actually say, it's like, well, I mean, my perfect idea now, which wasn't even my idea, was it was really, I'd say, a mix of us all speaking on Crix's podcast. That actually there's a reward for people that make a group. So remove the emblems away from the random, and then people who physically create a full group of 5 people and walk into an instance, they get the bonus emblems at the end instead. That way, the people who want random dungeon finder get the convenience. The people who want to make a group get the reward.
Well, the one you had on mine was like you tried for a short time, 3, 4, 5 minutes to queue on same server, and then it pops over to multi server. Like you don't want to make.
So then, if there's too few people, it will.
Yeah, it'll just pop you over.
Yeah, I do remember saying that. Now. You got me drinking on your podcast, remember? So it's your fault that I can't remember that idea. But yeah, let's face it though. What people need to get over is it's like me saying with the achievement system, because the achievement system's in. Every single person watching now and every person that plays Wrath of the Lich King has to farm achievements. You have to. You have to go back and do the old content to get the mounts. You have to get the Explorer. You have to do all the profession achievements and catch all the rare fish. No, you don't. It's there for the people that want to do it. Random Dungeon Finder will be there for the people that want to use it. As long as there's no reward, like where you're forced to do it, and all it does is put you in a group and teleports you to the instance and that's it, job done, then it's on you to deal with the shit that comes with that. That shit being people voting to kick you because there's an item that drops in there that they want as well. Or people going AFK, or people asking to be kicked because they don't like the dungeon that they've got. You know, all of that stuff, we who want it would have to deal with. You don't use it.
Exactly.
One thing that
just not queue.
One thing that Blizzard was saying in that announcement is they had the wording like, this didn't seem like the right fit for our game or for Classic. And so when I think about like, what is the right fit? Like, what do you mean by that? And I listen to my audience and what they've commented. A lot of people were voicing their thoughts on no RDF because the fact that someone could walk in, ninja loot an item, and then like leave and have no repercussions socially for it, for the social aspect of the game. To me, when I think about a compromise, how can we like fix that? And look, I'm not one to make a lot of compromises on RDFs. So this is hard, Scotty. Like we're pulling teeth here. But how about personal loot for RDF? We straight up take the retail version of personal loot and we use that with RDF, and then that way, like nobody can really ninja loot anything. Screw it. There you go.
I love it. No, you're the first person I've mentioned that. I love it.
Yeah, I think that opens another can of worms, though, because then there's the people that are going to be like, oh, but the personal loot was the problem.
Yeah, but people are always going to complain, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so, I've not heard that. That's
Bob, actually... what would you be your compromise, though? So Tara touched on cross-server. So all I want to do is whittle down to where we've got a random dungeon finder between us. So Tara's removed the cross-server. The thing that would need addressing, obviously, as we all know, would be, well, if it's a dead server, they're not going to get groups, but then they would have to be connected to other realms. It's as simple as that. But, you know, for the bigger servers, it's server only. What would you remove, Bob, to please people who are anti-RDF?
Okay, so one thing that I know happens is the toxicity of the ease in which you can kick somebody. Like I've grown up a lot. I'm a lot nicer person now. But when I played Wrath originally, we would normally 3-cube. And if someone did anything wrong, we would insta-kick them. I mean, it was like we wouldn't say anything. We wouldn't give them a chance. Nothing. Like, I mean, we would insta-kick them. And maybe a way to not solve it, but make it a little less, less of a thing to happen is if it is same server, then just making you have to go to the actual dungeon, because if you kick somebody halfway through, yeah, you'll get somebody to fill that slot, but now you gotta go outside and summon them. And like maybe you're like, well, I'll give this guy another chance because I don't want to deal with that. That could maybe help, possibly. I don't know. I'm grasping at stuff here because I'm not going to be the one that gets kicked, but I feel bad for the people that do, and so I'm trying to think of that because there's a lot of people that are going to get kicked.
I'm waiting for
Something
Bob
I
on
think
his podcast episode to complain that he got kicked from his first random dungeon
Yep.
finder.
Oh
'cause
yeah, dude,
I
it's
would
gonna
kick
be
him
great.
even if I was in his guild. Now he's said such a bold statement. I would kick him
Well,
on the first one.
Oh, dude, we'll get kicked just because we're content creators. They're like, dude, I got to kick Bob.
I've already said that. I said I'll be getting kicked left,
That's
right,
the target.
centre. But sorry, Tara, go on. What was you going to say?
No, I was just gonna say I don't know if I read it in chat or if I got the idea from chat, but someone said something about only having the RDF for leveling dungeons,
Mhm.
but then not for heroics. So that if you're worried about the ninja looting, that's where it actually matters. So you
Yeah.
just make your own heroic groups. All the people leveling trying to get ported to their dungeons can still get ported. You could even keep the bonus rewards out. You can just have them port you there, and then just make your groups for heroic. Maybe that's a compromise.
I think that's a good compromise as well, to be honest. Because again, I think what a lot of people forget that, well, particularly you, Tara, and Rugs, you won't forget, is the first day or two of doing heroics anyway, you're not going to be using random dungeon finder. You're going to be doing walk-ins because you're not going to have the eye level to queue. So that social aspect's there for the time where it matters. Because let's face it, once you can queue, you're almost
You only need to
only
do
doing
one
it for
dungeon
emblems now.
anyway.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, it almost doesn't, it's a non-issue, but I don't think people actually understand that. I think they think because they're full Sunwell geared, they're just going to walk straight into heroics, or they're going to queue straight into heroics with random dungeon finder. But they're not. They literally will not they still will not have the eye level when they get to level 80 to queue. So it kind of is like, well, you've got to run, you've got to do all the first ones, and then after that, it's boring. Why do you want to?
I think,
Just queue.
but you kind of hit on something though. I think there's a common misconception. People take like the gearing moving from vanilla to TBC. They take it as a 1-to-1, thinking that's the same that Wrath is going to be. And in TBC, now weapons were way higher in TBC. I mean, you were replacing those super fast, but like as far as like a lot of the just gear, pants, chest, yada yada, I mean, Nax gear was pretty like side grady to the stuff that was in Kara, but that's from what I've heard, that's not the way it is for Wrath. It's really a big jump. And I think there's a lot of people that are just thinking 1-to-1 of what it was when they came from vanilla to classic with Nax.
I don't
Rugs
know, Bob.
looks
I
excited
actually
to talk.
think, yeah, I actually think that it is more like what you just experienced. I don't know if you remember the first week of raiding in classic TBC, the people who had like full tier 3 gear, it was straight up like really useful in Kara. It was straight up useful in Mag. Like that stuff actually made somewhat of a difference depending on what loot it was.
Oh yeah,
and I think that's like actually going to be a big thing in Wrath too. I think
Oh,
the Sunwell gear will carry
you
you
think so?
way further than you think that it will.
Really? See,
Yeah.
see from what I've heard from a lot of people is the gear jump is like a lot larger in Wrath. This is just what I've been trying to like consume as much as possible, and like, you know, because I don't exactly remember what the jump was like, and I didn't even have
I
Sunwell
don't-
gear when I went to Wrath.
Yeah, no, I'd be with Bob here. I think the actual gear, the eye level increase is substantial. You know, when you go from tier 6 to 5-man heroics, you know, you're looking at like 50-ish eye level on every single item. You know, there's really good pieces because of extra gem slots, which is probably what you mean, Rugs. You know, as in like the crafted tailoring chest, for example, that actually is nearly as good as your tier 7 chest. You know, it's only a little bit of spell power, you know, if you're a caster, lower. But yeah, in general, it's the eye level jump. I think it's those big pieces from somewhere where they've got a full extra socket that you wouldn't get in another piece of gear, because a lot of the 200 gear in heroics hasn't got sockets. You know, obviously your head has and that, but the vast majority of it hasn't got sockets. So it's those bits where you've got 2 or 3 sockets in one item, and now you've got the bigger gems from Wrath that you can put into it that would potentially, I think you could go and clear Kara day 1 full Sunwell geared at level 80. Yeah, without any issues.
You mean Nax?
Nax, sorry. What did I say?
I think you said Kara, but I knew
did I say
exactly what you
Kara?
meant.
I knew exactly
Yeah,
what
I
you
meant
did too,
Nax.
but I just wanted to clarify for anybody listening.
Oh, yeah, no, it's because we were just talking about Kara. Oh, whatever, I'm confused now. But yeah, you'd be able to do it, but ultimately, every more or less 90% of your Sunwell gear could be replaced in 5-man heroics or crafted gear, whatever.
Yes, it definitely could.
But all right, cool. So I mean, that was a bit of a. We went off topic from the old RDF there, so we'll just speed through these 3 points before we get on to looking forward. So if we've had an hour on the news and the intros, then we'll have a good full hour on looking forward into Wrath. What's all your thoughts? And we'll start with Bob. So, what's your thoughts on? I'm going to say no faction change at the moment. No faction change, no race change. But they have said that they're discussing it still. But from a tweet by Brian Birmingham, he actually categorically said no, it's not going to be in the game.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I kind of joke that I don't want it. And it's just a joke because I have been human this entire time, waiting for every man for himself and making all my characters human so that I have that when it comes. And F you if you're going to just jump over, you make a new character, it's just kind of a joke. Like, I honestly don't care if it comes in. And I think really the only people that are really going to switch are the hardcore PvPers. And all you're going to do to them really is just make them work up another character. And for those guys, it's going to be fast. They're going to boost it. It's not going to be a big deal. So I don't know. Like, it was a cool thing in the past just to be able to jump back and forth. But like, if you give people that opportunity that easy, it might really skew. But I mean, everything's broken down the servers anyway. Like, we don't have PvP servers anymore. We have like basically every server, almost the majority of servers, one faction is won, and all that's left is just the remnants of that little bit of faction. So really, I don't think it matters if they put it in. I don't know why they don't, because it's just more money for them. But I think you said it on Crix's podcast. Like, they're trying, like, hot take, like they would just want you to buy the more expensive boost rather than the cheaper change.
Yeah, I mean,
I think it was you that said
yeah,
that.
I did say that. No, I've said exactly that. That it will then just encourage people to buy a 70 boost or buy the deluxe edition that gets a 70 boost with it to boost a human. It's questionable, isn't it, whether would that make them more money? Because most people, like, if you was going to faction change from Horde to Alliance, I've thought about it since I said that. And whilst I do think maybe in their mind they are like, well, these people, they'll boost a human which will cost $60 instead of a faction change which would charge, I don't know, $20. But that person might have 4 or 5 characters that they're going to faction change them all. So, yeah, which way they would make more money, I don't know. I still personally, even if it's not in at launch, like you can clip this, you can write it down, whatever. I think faction change will be in Wrath of the Lich King before the end of the expansion. Maybe not at launch, but I think they'll still implement it because we've basically stood up and gone, take our money. The vast majority of people are crying out saying, why is there no faction change? Whereas, then if they implement faction change, there's going to be the other half of the people who are standing up going, no, why have we got faction change? This is what I mean. They can't really win. No matter what they do, somewhere, because everybody thinks their opinion is worth something when, unless you agree with Ruggs, it's not worth nothing. So...
It reminds me of something Yip said on our show, like towards the end of Vanilla. He said if they had put the Chrono Boon, the Chrono, whatever it's called, the one that stores
I know what you mean. World buffs.
If they'd put that in from the start, everybody would be like, it is Blizzard's fault that we went through this whole stupid world buff meta because they empowered it and made it, a thing. But and they can't win no matter what they do ever. Usually, it's pretty funny and comical to watch.
Yeah, it's absolutely right though. They can't. They're always going to upset someone or some small group of players, or one way or another. You just got to roll with it, haven't you? But Tara, what did you think? Faction change, race change, did it bother you, or?
I'm not bothered. I've always been an Alliance player, and I'm Alliance, so I would never play anticipating to swap later. Um, Again, I as a player, I'm someone that thinks about like the servers and all those, little mini servers that have like 100 people left. Like, what about them? Like, I don't really know. How does Blizzard fix the whole like faction balance, server balance issue? I have no idea.
Nor do they. They've openly said they don't know what to
Exactly.
do.
Nobody knows.
I mean, well,
Rugs.
like they had a short chance to do it though. Like when they let all the free transfers of dying servers go over, would have taken just a little bit of love to like lock faction sides of certain
Mhm.
servers until they get to a certain point, then lock it. I mean, it's what they
100%.
used to do back in the day. So it would have just taken them a little bit of effort from an intern, and they could have done it. Now there's no way to like. I can't think of a
Now it's
way to
too
fix
late.
It's
it.
out of control.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's done now.
Yeah, of the faction change issue, I am not too opinionated on it. I think I would prefer for it to be in the game because it was in the game when Wrath came out. Came in about a year into the expansion, to be exact, and it's something that should be there. I think it should be there. I don't care too much either way. I would like to be Horde. I'm currently Alliance. You know what? It's not a big deal to me. I think it's free money. It's like we said, it's free money for Blizzard. Like we're literally saying, like, here, give it to us. I want to be Horde. I want the Orc Racial, or I'm a PvPer. I need to be human. Like for this next expansion, I need it. Here's my money. Like, I don't know. Just seems like an easy win. I don't see like the whole controversy about it. I don't see why they would limit it. I have a hard time relating to why they would limit it.
I'm exactly the same. So, okay, we've only got a couple more regarding the announcement before we move on. So, the DK changes. So, I've voiced my opinion on this several times, and no one agrees with me, which is fine. As I say, it's perfectly fine. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I think being able to start a DK without a level 55 is wrong, personally. And people are like, "Ooh, hasn't got a 55 at this point." Well, yeah, all right, whatever. But people who haven't would need to get to 55 first. If they stop calling it or referring to it as a hero class, I'll be all right with you being able to start, without a level 55 on your account. And the same with it being in the pre-patch. I've been very vocal all along that it shouldn't be in the pre-patch, just because if you're going to re-roll to the new shiny class, which it is fairly OP, like when you really think about it, they're strong. They're going to be strong all the way through Wrath. They can tank, they can DPS, they're a fun new class. Then I feel like you should be at a disadvantage, to everybody else. Go on,
Wow,
Rugs.
I had
You're gonna
no
be a main
idea
DK,
you were
go for
so. I didn't know you were so opinionated on not having them in pre-patch.
Yeah,
Wow.
I wouldn't have them pre-patch. I wouldn't have a monk in the mop pre-patch. I wouldn't. It's not just against DKs. They weren't in the pre-patch before, and whilst it's a different era, it's a different game. I appreciate that. That's not really what I'm fixating on. I'm fixating on the fact that they should be gated, and that's what everyone's saying. Like, why would you gate? A Death Knight. People should have time to level them up and get ready for Northrend and all of that. Whereas I'm in the complete opposite camp, where I'm like, no, they shouldn't have time. You'll get your time. You'll just have to get 15 levels first.
Yeah, I just have to disagree completely on both sides. I think the 58 start is probably not great for like the economy because someone could just straight up make a level 55 DK, start farming stuff, and on a brand new server that they're on, and that might be really bad for botting. It might be like horrible for botting. We'll see about that. So I do kind of understand that part, but as a DK player, like I'm glad for it. I will likely make a Horde DK on a different server, and it's just quality of life for me not to have to level something up to 55 and then make my DK. And then in terms of pre-patch, I love that. I think pre-patch, genuinely, just from like a fun perspective, it is one of the most fun moments of any Wrath. Not Wrath, of WoW. Pre-patch is hilarious. It's like the wild, wild west out there. People have all these new shiny talents, and people are just going crazy. I loved it when old TBC went to Wrath pre-patch, when Rep Paladins got Divine Storm, and I was getting one shot as like a 12-year-old playing the video game, or however old I was, just getting absolutely one shot trying to do my dailies. And then even just like recently, the pre-patch for Burning Crusade during Nax when people went crazy leveling their Blood Elves in Draenei and then went into GDKPs and bought all the gear. Like, it was just fun. It's just a quirky little fun time. And I would love for DKs to be roped in on that fun experience. It's a great time for everyone involved. I have no issues with it at all.
Well, it will be new. I mean, and that's the thing. It's not keeping with the spirit of Classic. This is the thing where they can be very choosy. They're like, well, it wasn't like that back in the day, but this is now a convenience thing, or it wasn't like that back in the day, but we don't think if we don't do it, it's not going to fit our current community and stuff. So basically, they can do what they want. But yeah. It's my very old school mentality. Like that's it. And again, I'm pretty much in a little camp on my own. Against everybody else, because everybody is like, no, they should be in the pre-patch, blah blah blah. Whereas I am literally on a little camp, in a little camp on my own. Like, well, no, they shouldn't, because
you're the old man on the porch saying, "Get off my lawn. This isn't how it's supposed to be."
I am, exactly. It's like, why is this DK on my lawn? Get off you can come on this lawn when the game launches, mate. Yeah, but it is, it's just that I also think it would be more fun, actually. Like, yeah, I get what you're saying, like the pre-patch, having a DK in the pre-patch when it's never been done before, because again, there was no DKs in the pre-patch before, so this is a completely new experience. But the preparation that you'll put in to make sure that you can get to 70 or 68 to get to Northrend as quick as possible, and everything feeling like a rush. That's why I re-rolled Monk in Mop. Again, Monks weren't there. I had to do the whole, 1 to 85 before I could get into Mop lands. And that was really fun. That was a challenge for me. I enjoyed that. And I think people, whilst people won't agree and they go, no, DKs in the pre-patch will be a lot more fun because you're not far behind, actually, that catching up could be equally as fun as playing in the pre-patch. I mean, I'm just trying to convince everybody else now at this point.
Well, there's something to be said, actually, about, like, if DKs come out in the pre-patch, then, like, the whole wave of everyone making their DKs and, like, the starter zone being insane, that's going to be in pre-patch. And then all the DKs have all now caught up, and so now everyone is level 70 waiting for actual Wrath. And then all of the Wrath starting zones are all, a cluster. So if, like, DKs came out not in the pre-patch and they waited until actual launch, it kind of splits the pop a little bit.
That's a good point.
So the
It
DKs
alleviates
starting,
it.
Yeah, the DKs are starting in their zone, everyone
point.
else starting in Borean. It kind of
or
splits
just
it a
give
little
us
bit.
RDF. We have RDF, and then Borean and Howling Fjord won't be so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
it's just an opinion. What do you think, Bob? Go on.
Well, I was actually until just now, I was actually of the opinion that I love them in pre-patch. But that is a really good point, because that's a real small starter area, and during the pre-patch, it's going to be nutso. But if it came out at launch, I wouldn't be, it would only be the people that do plan to main DK probably there. It would significantly cut down on the bottleneck that is starter zone. So yeah, I guess like that kind of changes my mind there. But as far as the level 55, I think I'm with Scotty, like, because like the way I see it, like, and I don't know if this is what they meant, but the way I always saw DK, and the reason you had to have a level 55 is because you're actually saying that hunter you had, I know they didn't make you use a character, but I think in the beginning they were probably thinking about making you use any character, because DKs were not DKs until they were, made by Arthas, and you were something else prior. So I think the whole thought process was you were a hunter that got killed and risen by the Lich King and then fought back, So I guess, like, I don't really care, but I think I'm with Scotty, and I think that you probably should have to have a level 55 that you've worked up. Not even, like, I don't even think you should be able to buy a boost and then make one also. I think it should be someone you had to work up. It's what people had to do back in the day. I know I'm kind of an old boomer, get off my lawn type of dude too. Like, I played it, all of it back in the day, and I was actually like, vanilla when it came out. I was just fresh out of college. So it was a very different experience for me than a lot of other people that are in the scene now. So I get that, like, sometimes my opinions are not going to be like the majority opinion.
Yeah, and that's like mine. My opinions are generally not the majority opinion. But the way I see it as well is not. Yeah, it'd just be great to see the levels of preparation. Like, I'll make it perfectly clear, I really am not bothered. Like, I don't want people thinking that I'm getting hung up on this. If DKs are in the pre-patch, I assumed they was going to be in the pre-patch anyway. If you don't need a level 55, whatever. It's not. I'm not bothered. It's not going to affect my enjoyment of playing Wrath of the Lich King. But on the other hand, just think about the Realm First DK achievement, just for an example. Like, that would be so much more meaningful if when Northrend goes live, you're starting at 55. The levels of preparation that people would go through, having a Paladin on a separate account to boost yourself in strat as soon as you get out of the starting zone, then probably multiple accounts to summon yourself, to slave pens to boost on your mage. I know it's all boosting and it doesn't sound like much fun, but it would be really fun to see. To watch that first DK, you've got to level 72 or 73. All of a sudden, you've only got 3 levels. You've got a DK literally at 70 already in Northrend. The preparation and the effort that people would go into would be mind-blowing to see, but we're not going to see any of that. Like, the Realm First DK is almost going to mean nothing. It's not going to be any more special than any other level 80 Realm First. It's no more special than a mage, a warlock, a priest, whatever, because there has not been that sort of disadvantage. But look, as I say, I don't care. I don't care enough to sit here and moan about it for 10 minutes like I just have. But, it's just, I just think it would be a more fun experience, So, are we all happy with the DK bit? Should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. I'm good.
Well, this is going to be one, isn't it? This is going to be one that's going to, again, cause a bit of a kerfuffle. So, dual spec. Now, what they've said about dual spec is that, it's definitely going to be there. It sounds like it's definitely going to be there, but with possibly some restrictions. So, I just want us to talk a little bit about, well, A, do there really need to be any restrictions at all? And sort of B, what could some of those restrictions be? So this time I'll pass over to Rugs. What do you think?
Right. So I think the idea is they want to restrict it to where you're only able to change specs in a rested area. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that's how it was for most of the patches in original Wrath. They didn't change it until later, where you could just change willy-nilly as long as you weren't in combat, in an arena, or in a battleground. Those were the only limitations on when you could actually change specs. And personally, I don't see any reason to limit it. I guess maybe I'm the zoomer here, but I feel like if you have to be in a rested area to change specs, it just slows everyone down again. And I don't like being slowed down. And ultimately, like, people are going to do it anyway. If you're in a 10-man dungeon or a 10-man raid and you want to 3 heal a certain boss, or even if you want to 2 or 1 heal a certain boss, you're just going to have to send someone home. They're going to hearth and you just summon them back. Like, we're still going to do it either way. Like, if we want to change specs, we will make it happen. The only people who hurt from this are the speedrunners, like the ultra speedrunners who maybe want to have like 3 or 4 heals for a certain boss and then a solo heal for a certain boss and that kind of stuff, or like 2 tanks and then solo tank. And the truth is, in case you aren't super familiar with Wrath, there's a lot of solo tank fights. And then when you need a second tank, you need it. Like, you actually need it for a certain mechanic. And not having like the freedom to just change specs is just going to be a pain in the ass. And I cannot get behind it if they add restrictions to it.
I must admit, the thing that stood out there is I don't remember there ever being any restrictions. Like genuinely, I don't actually remember there being any restrictions. I know it didn't come out till 3.1, which was Alduar, but I don't remember ever having to go to a rested zone. I'm not saying you're wrong. It was years ago. Do you know what I mean?
I could be wrong.
But yeah, I don't remember it personally. I know that they added that with changing glyphs and things like that. You needed, if you wanted to change glyphs, you could do it for free in a rested zone, or you had to have Tombs of Disappearance or whatever that was called. Again, yeah, I don't really remember it with talents. But I agree with everything you said anyway. So Tara, what do you think, dual spec? More, what do you think about restrictions? Like, should there be any?
I don't see a reason why we would even need restrictions. I feel like not having dual spec in TBC is one of the things that makes me play less. If I had dual spec, I would play more. It's just so annoying to like swap spec, especially when you're a tank, or even more so when you're a healer. You can't like do anything unless you're in a group, and then you gotta respec, go your DPS spec, go respec back to free raid, etc. All the PvP players, I don't even PvP, and they, I'm sure, are annoyed when they have to swap all the time. So I don't see why they would restrict it. I feel like everyone wants dual spec, and in its purest form.
Yeah, agree. Bob, your thoughts?
I don't want any restrictions either. I don't mind. I think I'm fine with going to a sanctuary area or rested area to change. I mean, like I just want dual spec, please. But I've also heard it could possibly be the level that you could get it. Like you might not be able to get it till like you're actually max level or something. But what scares the living crap out of me is what if they put it on a cooldown? I do not want a 15, 20-minute cooldown. Like that would really suck for the way that I want to use it. Because then I'd be like, well, I got to be done PvPing 20 minutes prior to raid, or people are going to be mad. Like, and what if I forget to switch after I come out of that BG? I go AFK, and then all of a sudden it's 5 minutes before raid, and I'm like, oh my god, I didn't switch. So if they make it a cooldown, that scares the living crap out of me.
Yeah, I mean, it is all they can really do.
Thought about that. I really hope they don't. That's such
it scares me. It scares me, dude.
It's the one thing that I think they'll do.
Spec, I really hope that's like this isn't a conversation. 6-8 months down the road. That would be really really toxic of Blizzard.
Yeah, I think there's only so many things they can do.
All right, so you guys want to move on to the next thing?
Sorry, I was actually talking, but I didn't realize I was muted. Yeah. It's because I was just typing and I was looking because there is a lot of backwards and forwards. I mean, between Twitch and YouTube chat, saying about dual spec never had restrictions. Dual spec did have restrictions. I mean, it may very well have done, but I've looked on WoWpedia and WoWWiki, and neither of them mention that you need to be anywhere. I mean, the only change I can see is that it literally, from when it got implemented in 3.1, it then in 4.0 got reduced in cost. But as I say, I may need to dig deeper into that. It sounds familiar, but I just don't remember ever having to leave Alduar or anything to do it. But as I say, I will dig into that more after the stream anyway. But yeah, restriction-wise, I don't think there's many restrictions that they can put on other than that, having to be in a rested area or having a small cooldown on it, even if it was just 5 minutes or something. I mean, I don't know what that would really achieve. Or, I don't know, you have to speak to your trainer. Again, I don't even get why they would be discussing internally about adding restrictions. Because is that eroding that social fabric that they're so precious about as well? Like, yeah, it makes no sense to me.
They could also do things like locking you to the raid with whatever spec you walk in with, and boy, that could cause a lot of problems too. Like I forget to swap over, and then I walk in and I'm saved to that raid ID in my PvP spec. Like that could be horrible.
It would just be so damn annoying. Think about like patchwork in Nax where you need a third tank to soak eightfuls. And then imagine that guy being like literally third tank doing nothing. Absolutely nothing. The rest of the entire raid. Like, oh God, what a waste. What an absolute
your
waste.
Be so much more flexible because you can swap who you want to tank and heal like per fight. Well, it's awesome.
And how bad would it suck for that third tank just to be like, well, I'm just gonna walk around here, okay?
And the alternative is he comes in for one fight and then gets kicked out of the raid too. So that sucks.
That's probably more likely, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Right?
Yeah, it is.
But cool. All right. Well, yeah. So dual spec. don't sound like any of us are much of a fan of there being any restrictions whatsoever. So the last thing before we actually start talking about the exciting stuff, I mean, it's taken us ages to get to these exciting things that we are going to talk about, which is actually what we know to expect, what is going to be happening in Wrath. So the last one is it's a bonus one that I just threw in because I find it quite interesting, and it might be something that you even struggle answering like off on the spot, because you might need to actually think about, oh well, how important are these things going to be? But if we got beta tomorrow, so we're all on the beta servers tomorrow, what would be the first thing you want to test? So Tara, we'll go round in a circle. So I'll go last. Tara, what would be the first thing you'd want to test to see if it's the same as private servers or the same as back in the day or whatever?
Probably the DK zone first, honestly, just to see if it's broken currently or not, because a lot of times, the quests don't work, they don't share properly. One person does one quest at a time just to see how it's being implemented. That's
Yeah.
probably what I would do first.
Makes sense. Bob, what would be the first thing you test if you've got one off the top of your head?
I hate to do the same one, but it's one of the coolest things ever is the DK area, because I don't know if a lot of people know this, but the way it was done originally, and I don't know if private servers do it the same way, is that zone changes throughout your quests, and once you get past a certain spot, your instance changes. You can't see the people that are on the quest behind, like they can't see you, they can't group with you, like it just like the whole thing changes throughout, and it's a really neat thing. But I mean, besides that, I'd probably be testing like specifically for me, it's a weird one, but I'd be testing how much faster it is to work up fishing, because I'm trying to talk myself into waiting for Wrath, because I believe it got
Fishing
faster.
main.
I need
Well,
to get
Realm
I need
First
to get it up on
Fisherman,
multiple
Inc.
characters. But I need to get it up on multiple characters, and I want to know if I should just wait for Wrath than mess with the horribleness that it is now to work up. So that's kind of like, if I had to test something, like that might be the first thing I test really quick.
Oh yeah, I just thought that was funny. Just fishing. Go on, Rugs. How much skinning would you test?
That's great, Bob. That's great, man. For the record, in my experience on the servers that I've played on, you can have level 1 fishing and still do the daily fishing quest in Dalaran, and you'll be fine for the most part. So it's actually really nice.
That I need to know. Okay, all right.
Yeah,
gotta know.
it's slower if you're lower level fishing, but you don't need much, and the lures carry you all the way. But we'll see. That's something to test in beta for sure.
Okay, cool.
For me, when it comes to testing in beta, there's a lot. There is a lot that I want to go through, and there's a lot that I would probably make a list for. But my number one thing, I'm a DK main, guys. I'm a big DK main, and the first thing I got to do is get in there and start testing gargoyle scripting for Unholy. There are a lot of iterations that we've seen for gargoyle scripting on many different servers. People have it different. Someone raises a ticket and says it should be this way. The devs change it. Someone raises a ticket, says it should be reverted the other way. It changes again. And there is a way that it should be scripted in terms of how it was back in the day. And it should be uncapped GCD, and it should be meleeing when it's in melee range. We'll see what we get.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
And this is going to make me look dumb, but I'm going to do it for everybody else who probably has the same question. I've been hearing the word scripting a lot lately. I don't actually know what it means. Like, I think I know what it means, but I want to know for sure. Can you explain scripting just real fast?
I probably couldn't give you a good technical answer of scripting. Tara, if Scotty, if either one of you have a better technical answer, but what I would say is, if a ability is scripted to give you a certain buff or to cause a certain amount of damage this way based on how it's proccing in the game, then that's how it is scripted.
And if it is on what type of deal?
Yeah, like how it's written in the script. So the code. So the lines of code is the script.
Coded, I guess.
That's what I thought, but I wanted to make sure. Okay, cool.
So like Rogue said, there's a lot of really weirdly scripted stuff from private server to private server.
Right. And like the Unholy DK Gargoyle is a big deal. It's a big part of their damage profile. It's a big part of their fantasy. It's a big part of the reason why people would choose to play Unholy DK is the snapshotting element and that how like broken that's going to be or how fun it's going to be and how it interacts with the game, and what your gargoyle actually does. And it matters from a PvP perspective too. So there's so much that goes into that. That is like literally my number one priority. After that, I'm going to be testing a bunch of boss stuff.
Cool. Well, mine. So I've got a list. I done this for the TBC beta as well. For anyone who watched me back then, I had the Beta Diaries, which was like a rip-off of Vampire Diaries, but no, it wasn't. It was Breaking Beta. It was the Breaking Bad series I've done a couple. But anyway, so yeah, I come up with a list of popular questions asked in stream or on comments and stuff like that, and then go in and just test those specifically. But at the moment, I'm just coming up with a list of my own because no one's really talking about things that really need to be tested at the moment. But I got two which I'd really like to see how they work. One is snapshotting, and one is damage stacking. So it's interesting because on that podcast that I was on with Crix and Sarf, obviously Rugs, I know you was in chat and you was commenting, about things like Death Wish, tricks not stacking with Death Wish, for example, and but it's Hysteria. That in general. Hysteria, yeah. But also, like, tricks wouldn't stack with Hysteria as well, because it's a percentage damage. Or it shouldn't. But it did. As in, don't quote me on this, but I'm sure it was stacking all through Ulduar, or definitely at the beginning, so definitely in 3.1. So you could stack Death Wish and Hysteria. You could stack Death Wish and tricks. You could stack, any of those percentage damage multipliers they did stack together. So it's stuff like that I'd like to test because they're things that would probably slip through the net, as in that they might not change. Do they see it as a problem? Is it? And I mean, actually, snapshotting is a bigger one than that, if I'm honest. It's just I'd like to more for me know if Hysteria and tricks stack, as a feral. That's all I'm bothered about. But the snapshotting in general, because that went through a lot of changes, and so many people talk about snapshotting on private servers, and for the vast majority of Wrath of the Lich King, that's not how it worked. The only reason it changed was because of things like the never melting ice crystal or whatever it's called. Like that played a big part then with snapshotting because you would equip it, get a big percentage crit up and everything. But it was more hasted corruptions. So being able to stack ridiculous hasted corruptions as a warlock and then keep it. Because it was rolling. It was rolling dots, rather than refreshing dots, and that's what changed. So I just don't. It doesn't make sense to me because then it changed again in 4.0. Remember, so there was only a really small window in Wrath where snapshotting actually worked like it does on popular private servers at the moment. You're talking, I don't know, 8 months tops or 6 months, something like that. The vast majority of it worked differently, and it doesn't really make sense for snapshotting to not snap spell power props. Like if you've got a spell power trinket, it doesn't make sense for you to not be able to cast a bigger corruption to then keep that rolling. Yet you can roll things like Tricks of the Trade, and you can roll like your Warlock tier 10 bonus. There's no continuity there. So actually, in terms of things I want to test, that's what I want to test. And nice dog, what I want to see changed. As in, I would like to see snapshotting changed. If it does work like it does on private servers, I would definitely remove haste snapshotting, but have everything else snapshot. Long answer, sorry.
Yeah, I think that's something like that could go through changes even during the beta. That's something like drums they might actually look at because there'll be a lot of people talking about that once beta comes out, I think.
Yeah, and they will, and they may. Well, we've seen it. We've seen it in vanilla. We've seen it in TBC, where they do make changes if they agree that those things don't make sense. And I think you don't even need to be a developer to agree that having percentage damage and crit, those two things in particular, they're the only things that snapshot. There's no sense there, really, is there? When the big ones that you want snapshotting is spell power. That's the one that should definitely snapshot. But Rugs, do you want to take over? So looking forward, starting with like the raiding scene. I'll switch to this scene, but I just need to just nip away just for a second, and I'll leave your beautiful raid going on in the background.
Sure thing. So when it comes to raids and what they will look like in Wrath and how will no boosted or no like tuned content play out for us, to me, this is a topic that I feel pretty strongly about, because I want to make sure people have good expectations going into Wrath. I think a lot of people are just like, oh, easy expansion, easy game. It's going to be super easy. It's face roll. Oh, it's not even buffed. Like, it's just going to be so easy. We'll solo heal literally everything. Like, look, phase 1 is going to be just as easy as phase 1 it was in TBC, for sure. Nax, OS, EOE, it's all very easy. But Ulduar and ICC are raids that are hard. They're hard. And Ulduar will genuinely be the hardest raid that Classic will have ever seen. And people hyped up SSC to be like the hardest raid that people had ever seen in Classic. And it ended up being a challenge for sure. But guys, like, even if we get the easiest version of Ulduar, like I'm talking, even if we get post nerf stuff, guilds are going to have an insanely hard time with Firefighter. It will not be a walk in the park for these dad guilds or semi-hardcore guilds. Like, you will spend a long time progressing these fights, whether you like it or not. And you cannot just assume that Yogg 0 is going to be something that you can just sell mount heads for, like the Mimiron head. Like, everyone's like, oh, we're going to sell Mimiron heads every week. It's going to be great. We'll just have some buyer and it's going to be awesome. Like, sure, there's going to be guilds who can do that. But like, guys, this shit is not a walk in the park. Like, have good expectations that this is challenging. So that way, when the raids actually come out, you're not just like hit in the face and your guild like collapses, because guilds will actually like get completely broken if they underestimate Ulduar, for example.
I'm excited for that because, dude, Yogg 0 took us so many attempts. Like, I mean, and we were like, like we were dying by the end of it. But like, once we did it once, we never did it again. Like, we were just like, we were like screaming, we were yelling, we were like, that's done. We're done. You know, like, because it, like, there was lots of RNG that went into it too. Like, you know, even if you were doing perfectly, you would still like there would be things that you would just fail. Like, and so, but I don't know how private servers do it now. Like, you know, we were like some of the first to do it, so I don't even know if our strategies were the best ones. I'm curious to see how long it takes the Classic community to do it, but it's interesting because until when they nerfed SSC and TK, there was still only 50% of guilds had killed all of the bosses. So I mean, there was a ton of people that just couldn't do that content, and I don't remember
Right.
Ulduar ever getting nerfed in Wrath. So I don't know, like, I don't know, will that just break guilds up? Like, yeah, I'm curious. It's gonna be neat to see, but I'm excited for it.
Ulduar was just more made irrelevant, wasn't it? Which I'm sure Tara and Ruggs will agree. You know, once Top comes out, there's just, all right, if you're trying to get Valinir, but other than that, it just sort of slips into, well, it's a waste of time. You might as well just do Tok, and that's about it. I know there's still a few items, don't get me wrong, in Ulduar, but just in my experience on private servers, once Top comes out, hardly anyone goes back and does Ulduar unless it's for achievements.
Yeah.
I like what Bob was saying about seeing how, you know, only 50% of guilds actually were killing KT and Vash before they nerfed it. Man, and there's a lot of people out there who are like super cocky and like they know that like they're gonna walk into Ulduar and they're gonna absolutely like own it and it's gonna be great for them. But when we see the Warcraft logs breakdown of like guilds and progression and all these hard modes, it's, oh man, I'm so excited for it because there's genuinely like difficult fights in Ulduar and some guilds don't have enough raid hours in the week to progress it all. And it's going to be crazy to see like the guilds who are getting like really hard stuck on Freya hard mode, or who can't hit the DPS check on Hodir hard mode, or who missed their Algalon week 1 attempt because they only had an hour to do it, and like all these things. Like, it's going to be really cool to watch. I'm like really excited to see the differential. Like, guilds who are better than other guilds will really have a chance to prove it when it comes to Wrath. So I'm looking forward to it.
And it's also what we was talking about with Sarf, actually, talking about speed running and what will constitute a speed run in Ulduar? Because you can just blitz through it and kill every boss. But to do a legitimate speed run, that all of the bosses that are can have a hard mode attached, that they need to be killed on hard mode for it to basically count as a speed run. I mean, that's going to be interesting as well, because like you say, there's a lot of things, a lot of variables on hard modes, where there's quite a lot of RNG, I would say, even in Hodir hard mode. You can get lucky or you can get unlucky, and I've done it myself, done 13, 14k DPS, and then the next pool done 9. Like that drastic of a difference, just based on how well your tanks move, where where lights have spawned, who's got the lightning, all of that really does come into play. So it's definitely going to be interesting. But did you touch on, because apologies, I did step away for a second. Have you touched on, like, sort of, would Nax need boosting? Because it's been mentioned by the devs themselves.
That's a good question. Tara, what do you think about that?
Does Nax need boosting? I don't think it needs it. I think it's not necessarily bad for the first tier to be really easy. Because the first tier of TBC, and it was my first time playing TBC, it was literally 2 bosses, a 25-man, and then Kara. So that was like, okay, it might even be worse than Nax, in my opinion. But if it was boosted, I think a lot of people would be happy, because it is really easy regardless. But even if it's not, I think if they just make sure that the tier isn't too long time-wise, then get into Ulduar. Then if it's unboosted, then I don't know that people would really be upset in either way.
I agree completely, because I think that every expansion, the first raid, should be easy. But I just think that because I want new people to come in, I'm not of the belief that everything should get harder as we go through. I think the last raid in every expansion should be really hard. And I want new people to come in. And if we came in and the start of TBC was just as hard as Nax, I mean, lots of people left for Nax, in vanilla. It was too hard for them. So I like having people come back, especially real life friends, and lots of them only play for the first tier, because that's all they're really ever going to be good at or succeed at. And I'm fine
Or
with
have
that.
time
I like
for.
having, yeah. So I agree completely. I know I might have a different opinion than a lot, but I agree completely.
Yeah, and I even agree from the elitist perspective. I think Nax is so easy; it doesn't need to be hard. I've done the buffed Nax versions. Every time I play a private server, all of them have buffed Nax, and at this point, I'm over it. It's not fun. It just slows it down. It's fun the first couple times for sure, because the boss, the fights are so easy that it's boring. But whatever, let it be a speedrunner's playground for the first phase, and let it be approachable and accessible for everyone, and move on. So be it. It doesn't need to be buffed. People who are begging for it to be buffed can go play private servers. They're all buffed on private servers. Go for it. But it
Yeah.
doesn't need to be.
I was gonna say that the community that wants them buffed are the private server community who have played the same game 5, 6, 7 times in a row, so they want it buffed. So it's interesting, I guess. But even when they buff, the HP, it's not harder; it's just longer. So
People are still going to wipe in Classic. Let's be honest. Even without it buffed, groups will still wipe on lower
people
feb.
who haven't done it since back in the day.
Yeah. I mean, see, I'm in agreement with Tara. If they're not, I'm not bothered about it being buffed, but I would like it to be short. I would like phase 1 to be short, so then we don't lose people, because I think that's a big possible outcome with it being too easy, where you're just strolling in, face rolling it in an hour, and then I don't know, feeling like you ain't got anything to do. If you've got one character, we all know Raph is very well. I say we all know, we don't know, do we? I was about to say Raph is very alt friendly, but without Random Dungeon Finder, I almost feel like some of the alt friendliness has been taken away from it. Sorry to go back on moaning and hating on Random Dungeon Finder decision again, but it's true. It's probably going to limit the amount of alts I have, actually. which the big thing I was excited about personally, as somebody who's only like I've got I don't know 4, 5, 6 level 70s. I only ever do anything on my druid because I'm not like that much of a fan of TBC raiding anyway. But Wrath was where I was really looking forward to raiding, every single day, or like just jumping on lots of different characters and doing my random heroic. Just queue, get it done, log off. Maybe I don't do anything on that character till the next day. So I think random dungeon finder being removed is going to damage the alt friendliness of the expansion as well. I don't know how you feel about
that. I mean, yeah. I mean, honestly, we were talking about random dungeon finder, and the conversations are really cool to see. But I honestly think that they're going to change it back. I mean, I really believe that day one we're going to have it. So, like, I feel pretty confident about that. But I mean, keeping talking about it does probably make that even more of a gives us a better chance of it getting reverted to. But you said something about Nax, the phase being shorter. I'm down with that. But the biggest thing I saw the problem with Kara is that Kara had no 25 man. Like, it was the weirdest phase ever because you're having all these extra tanks that you're not going to be taking in as tanks when you go to 25 man, and then 25 man's awkward because you've got to find alts to like run, with like your extra 10 man group, and then the people running with alts are like, why the hell am I in the freaking alt group? And like it was just so awkward. Like, and I think having the two versions is going to be better for phase one at least, but I'm definitely down for it to be shorter. But TBC, I think, was a different beast in how weird and awkward it was.
Well, I think, again, Tara, I'll put it to you, Tara, first, and then Ruggs, if you want to chime in afterwards. I think Kara is one of those where, actually, even if we had a short phase one, and you're doing Ulduar, let's say you're the best guild on your server, and you're doing Ulduar 25-man hard modes, you're still probably going to be going and doing Kara, Nax. Do I keep saying Kara? You're still going to be going back and doing Nax every week, while Ulduar's out anyway, just because there are the odd fit, maybe you're trying to get Grim Toll for someone, or, the weapons from KT are still decent enough for people who haven't got a weapon from Ulduar yet. To me, it doesn't feel like it dies a death quite as much as when then Tok comes out. Tok comes out, all the raids previous seem a little bit pointless. But I think having that short phase one is not going to mean once Ulduar comes out, no one sees Nax again. What do you think, Sarah?
Exactly, because, I mean, there's a lot of good Nax gear, but there's only a few, like, really good pieces. So there's definitely, reason to go back if you didn't get, everything, all the weapons, like you said, from KT, or the caster trinket for everybody. There's definitely reason to go and clear. So even if it's like a shorter, maybe like a 2 or 3 month, like Nax duration, you're still going to go back and try to get that loot, especially if you need it for your Ulduar progression.
Yeah, and I think Nax is going to be one of those weirdly very, very lucrative GDKP raids. It's a 25 man that exists in phase one, whereas like in TBC we had Mag and Gruul. It's like 3 bosses, literally 3 bosses. That's barely any loot, despite DST being included in that loot. And that could be really profitable for you. Nax has a bunch of loot, plus OS, plus EOE, which you will likely do in the same GDKP run. You'll do a full cycle. People will still go back and do Nax 25 mans for sure. For GDKPs, at the very least, is what I'm thinking, because there's so much good loot, a lot of good trinkets. All the EOE 25 man loot is Ulduar eye level. Man, it's just going to be very, very, very profitable, which just invites people back to the tier 7 gear.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's a lot of loot. I mean,
Yeah.
a lot of loot's fun. Even if it's just turned into shards, it's still just a lot of loot.
It's going to be one of those, isn't it? Like you said, Ruggs, like if you compare it to a DST Gruul, it's going to be like Nax 25 will be extremely profitable if you get lucky on trinkets. If you get a few trinket procs, you're all cashing in. Outside of that, KT weapons and stuff. And it'll be interesting to see, even like the the neck, the quest item from Saffron. Even that it's a 226 neck with a socket. At the end of the day, it is a really good neck. People will pay for that, especially in phase 1, but even in phase 2. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. I mean, it's going to be fun.
We talk about Nax, but then like Rogue said, there's also EOE and OS, and the OS 3 Drake loot a lot of it is BIS, even in Old War for some people.
And the mount, people will pay for the mount.
Let's go.
Like, I don't care about the mount, but that's money in my pocket.
Yeah, but like Fury at 5 Dragon Flights, for example, or the trinkets from Sarf, they're going to sell well, especially for like DK's rugs. You better start saving, mate.
Yeah. No,
cool.
You're right. Like, it's going to be great.
It's really good though, like to all of us to actually sit around and agree on something, because as we've gone through, we've all had subtle differences of opinions on different things, but actually when it comes to Nax, to say that 75% of us that are speaking are have played on boosted difficulty level Nax, or I mean, let's face it, Warmane Nax is just hard on it, just by default. You don't even need to put boosted difficulty on. So the fact that we're all like, actually, no, it'd be quite chill. It would be a nice, fun phase 1, just smashing through everything, getting your gear, getting ready for when all of our hard modes start, and it actually steps up in difficulty, which it will. Cool. Okay. So what do we think? Now, it's a bit of a weird question. Like, what do we think class representation is going to be like with it being in a 3.3.5 state? I think the main thing I want to get from this is what everybody is asking, and when I say everyone, comments and like people talking on the stream, they all say the same things. Are there just going to be floods of DKs and Paladins on every server? Because that's what people ultimately want to know, and I'm going to give my opinion last. So we'll go with Bob first this time. Like, what do you think, Bob, with DKs and Paladins being flavor of the month?
There's going to be a lot of DKs. The Paladin's what I don't get. Every time, why does everybody want to be Ret so bad? I just don't get it. But like, the DKs, they're going to be a lot of them, and you're going to need to earn your spot. But at the same time, as long as you have your, I think it takes 11 or 12 people to make sure you have all of your buffs. I mean, you can kind of throw in a lot of different classes. You can stack, so I don't know that it's that big of a deal, but it's probably the DK is probably going to be a big deal. And if you want to play DK, you're going to have to get good fast, because there's going to be a lot of competition, I think.
Yep.
Definitely. What do you think, Tara, in terms of, is there going to be too many? Because that's what people keep asking. Like, am I going to be able to get a raid spot? I want to go prop Paladin, but everyone they talk to is going to be prop Paladin. Like, do we see it being that big of an issue, or what do you think? I mean, you're nodding. I'm scared.
Well, tanks are always going to have a spot, so don't worry about that. Prop Paladins are just, if you're prot, you're going places. Everyone wants you. But as far as the Rets and the DKs, I think, there's going to be a lot of them. I think coming from TBC, though, I think mages and warlocks will also have this problem, though, because there's a lot of them, and I'm sure a lot of people are going to continue, maining those characters. But
that's a hot
as far
take.
as as far as class representation, something that I think is the biggest change that most people probably agree with is a lot less shamans and a lot more paladins, just in general, because the shamans aren't as needed, and all of the paladin specs are a lot better.
So Rugs, I mean, the man that gets all the hate on YouTube, let's be honest. I mean, I get the same, we all get it when you say things that people don't like to hear. But Tara just really hit the nail on the head. I'm going to ask you a really direct question. Should shamans start thinking about re-rolling to Paladin?
Is that a question for me?
That is a direct question for you, my friend. You've got the floor.
Yes, 100%. 100%. Right now, we have one Holy Paladin in every raid. We will want 2 in every raid in Wrath for the hard raids like World War and ICC. You need more Paladins, and you don't need more Rets. That's the thing. So we're talking about Rets and DKs, rerolls. we can take all the DKs in the world because, like Bob said, we can cover all of our raid buffs easily with only like you said, I think it is 11 or 12 people is all you need to cover everything. You can stack DKs. They're a meta. They are the flavor of the month. They're a meta spec, and the same thing like what Tara said, how there might be a lot of mages and warlocks. I think that's okay too. If you're a warlock main and you're going into Wrath and you're going to play warlock, so be it. We can stack warlock. We can bring 8 warlocks to a raid.
Too.
Who cares?
Yeah.
But shamans,
you don't want to stack shamans. You don't want to stack rets. You know
exactly. You don't want to stack rets. You don't want to stack shamans. You want 1 or 2 shamans in a raid. That's it. And I'll take 1 ret. That's it. 1 ret. If you want to play flavor of the month ret, get ready. Like what Bob said, you got to be good. You got to earn that spot because damn, it's going to be competitive as hell.
And even when you say like a couple of shamans, you'd be happy with 1, wouldn't you? Or I would. If I was making a group. If I had an enhancement shaman, I could live with that. So we've got Lust. If we had a heavy caster comp and we had the Ellie shaman there to buff Dark Pact, then all right, I could live with an Ellie shaman. Either way. If it was a big pumping enhancement shaman, I'd still probably rather take the enhancement over an Ellie if I'm completely honest. But resto shamans, yes. I get a lot of hate for this because I do. I played a resto shaman on Synergy. I cleared everything up to Tok. Well, including Tok as a resto shaman, and it's quite fun. But you still feel quite weak. Even though you can top the healing meter, it don't matter. You still don't feel like you've done a lot. Even you could be the number 1 healer, but you've got the Holy Paladin that has got more or less unlimited mana and brings 20% damage reduction across the raid when it's needed. Which is that's a really important point. It's when it's needed. And for a long amount of, I know it's only 6 seconds, but that's quite long. If you've got a bit of a nervous paladin that accidentally presses it a little bit early, most of the time it doesn't actually matter. You're normally still all right. And then, the resto shaman, I just don't feel like they bring enough. I think that's the problem. It's not actually their healing, because their healing is good. There's nothing wrong with the amount of healing they do. It's just, it's the same with the warrior, isn't it? Like, why take a prot warrior when you can take a prot paladin? Why take a resto shaman if you've already got Lust and you can take another healer that brings more to the group? So, I mean, that weren't even the question. I just had to put you on the spot, Rugs.
Yeah. This is something I do on my show a lot, because a lot of people just don't know these things, but like Lust is raid wide. And the reason we're talking about buffs is because most buffs become raid wide instead of party. There's still some buffs that are party only, but the vast majority goes raid wide.
Yeah. That's a very big deal. That is really what kills shamans off a little bit in terms of, it don't, at the moment in TBC, it don't really matter if your shaman's not pumping. They still bring Lust for that group. You can then rotate another shaman in and Lust again. That's what they're there for. And then when you remove that usefulness in Wrath, they just go a little bit further down. But that isn't to say like Tara, you're going to be playing Enhancement Shaman. So, they can't be that bad. I don't know, are they?
There's definitely a spot for them. I mean, everyone needs at least 1, so.
Yeah, as long as you've got that 1 spot.
Imagine if TBC had raid-wide buffs. We wouldn't take 3-4 resto shamans to a raid. We would take like 3 circle of healing priests.
Oh, 100%.
Because we'd have our Lust from like 1 shaman, that's kind of the situation with Wrath. Like some classes just kind of get kicked to the curb because they are worse in a lot of ways when we don't need their buff because we're getting it from somewhere else.
Totally. So, okay, next. So a little bit of again, I've really, because it's this episode is meant to be the intro to Wrath. I'm trying to cover all the big questions that people are asking all the time, and it is really around, are there going to be too many of this class? What are the raids going to be like? And I think Professions is quite a big one because, Rugs, I know you've done videos on Professions. I've done videos on Professions. Bob, I mean, I've obviously heard you guys even talking about Professions on Warcraft Reloaded. So if we was to go through sort of, I don't want to split it down to specific classes because I don't want it to be too in detail because we're going to have a whole 2-hour episode purely on Professions. But, if we was to talk like melee tanks and range DPS, and maybe you want to put Hunter there on their own because they are slightly different. what are the strongest professions for those? And as I say, I'm going to start with you, Rugs, purely because I know you've done a lot of sort of profession guide tier lists for everybody.
Right. So if we want to get to the nitty gritty, we could like recommend my video where I go into every spec what is best. But if broadly speaking, just broadly speaking for everyone, like tank and physical DPS, which is my bread and butter, JC engineering. It covers everything. JC engineering is insanely strong in Wrath. It's going to be best in slot for pretty much everyone and every class. If you have engineering right now, keep it. If you don't have jewel crafting yet and you want to have the best in slot profession, it's basically best in slot for literally every damn class in the game. JC Engie is like the top tier 2 professions in all of Wrath.
So just to ask the question that everybody maybe, or some people may be thinking, what if we didn't have the big gems in at launch? So what if we had the sort of 3.0 version of the gems?
So even if we have the 3.0 version where we only get 2 Dragon's Eye, 2 JC quality gems, JC is still going to be really good and still going to be really valuable. Not only just because of the stats that you're getting from it, it's also the choice of which stat that you want. Sometimes you need more hit. Sometimes you need more haste, and you're not going to get haste from anywhere else. Sometimes you need more intellect. Also, the trinkets from jewel crafting are really good, especially for tanks. You could run both of the stamina trinkets for your tank, all of the first phase of Wrath, if you were just super unlucky and didn't get Essence of Gossamer. But even then, you'd want one of the JC trinkets. Those trinkets are great. And just the options alone of being able to stack and focus purely on whatever stat that you want gives JC the freedom to not only be the best profession for your class, but it's like best profession for like everyone. You get to pick exactly what stat you want to stack.
Yeah, I've always been a big fan of customizability. That's it. It is, and there's a lot of classes where you want to start stacking haste at certain levels. You want to start stacking armor pen. And you can't get those from things like mixology from alchemy. You can't get them from enchanting on your rings. So it is those getting extra sockets or bigger gems or whatever. So you've covered the physical and tank. So like Tara, if we was talking maybe like casters and healers, what would you say the go-to professions? Just whilst I know, like a demo lock might differ differently a little bit to other casters, but if we were talking broad terms.
Yeah, so I'm pretty much going to agree with Rug's video where I'm pretty sure almost all his casters said Taylor NG. Pretty sure.
Yep.
Those are definitely best for casters. Healers are where IMO you can get a lot more flexible and maybe get in the less, not as good like stat wise professions, but get them into the raid so that you have someone for, the patterns and stuff. Like I like to put alchemy on my druid, my resto druid. You still get mixology spell power. And then you can have, a potion master on hand for your raid easily. Enchanting is also good on a healer for the spell power on the rings. And pretty much Jace. Engineering, is still gonna be like this on almost anybody just because of the mobility of it.
Yeah, that's cool. So, Bob, what do you think about professions? I know obviously you've not been on ridiculous amounts of private servers or anything, but where are you? With your main being a rogue, what are you leaning towards profession wise?
Well, he's currently JC engineering in preparation for Wrath. And engineering is just like out of this world good. I mean, you get a auction house in Dalaran. We already have repair bots, but that's the thing. You get freaking a portable mailbox. You get freaking haste or a rocket on your gloves. Enchant. Rocket boots are now on any boots that you get, which is huge for lots of different situations. I mean, engineering is just nuts, man. It's like how do you not choose it? And I'm afraid I don't want him to change it because the thing, I was happy they changed leather working because leather working is not fun. Engineering's fun. Like in the bombs, we didn't get it. I mean, there's just so much in engineering. It's out of this world. But if you turn it on something else, like That's for rating. Like, but say someone wants to make a lot of money, inscription's going to be real big at the start.
I was actually going to say
Mm.
that too, is
Yeah,
to don't sleep on inscription, because if you start it early, then selling those glyphs are going to be a good
nuts.
way to
I think for a
start
healer,
GG.
like you said, Tara, where you've got that flexibility, I think inscription for a healer, beautiful.
Or even like your first alt, level the inscription first,
Mm.
and then go to your other professions. It's
So
definitely good. And same with the JC, because they get the JC daily, the jewel crafting. So you need to get enough tokens to actually buy your patterns that you need. So you're going to want to start that early as well.
yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put this to both Tara and Ruggs, and it's entirely up to you which one of you want to answer first. But this is a really popular question again, and it is revolving around professions. And like, I've got my answer that I tell the stream all the time, and I do get a lot of kickback, and it's particularly on Paladin professions. So not rep, like we know what rep's going to be, but holy and protection. So I'll tell you what I would do, and then you feel free. Like again, do not agree. If you don't agree, tell me I'm wrong. As someone who's been playing a Holy Paladin quite heavily on Syndragosa, I would almost consider it my main on Syndragosa. As Holy, I would want to be engineering JC, but Holy is sort of a given because you want the trinket from JC and, to get the massive intellect from it and you get all that mana back. But I think Paladins are so immobile as a class that Rocket Boots as Prot or Holy works so much better than getting 2 extra sockets. And now I get a lot of people say to me, no, you should go blacksmithing and then you get even more intellect. But I feel like sacrificing that bit of intellect for the movement speed and the haste when you need it, or the armor as Prot, how do you both feel about it? I don't know, like, Tara, if you want to go first?
I totally agree with you that, NG is just going to be more useful in almost any situation. And it's also just, like your panic button. You got your boots, you're in the wrong spot. Like, get out of there.
Yeah. Ruggs,
Especially for the Holy Paladin, because they want to stand and cast. So if you have your NG boots, you can stand and cast until your last second, move, and then keep standing and casting.
Yeah, I gotta 100% agree. First of all, like jewel crafting, of course, is like basically mandatory. The stamina trinket for tanking and the intellect trinket for healing, like that's mandatory for your paladins. And engineering is sure you could go for like something else like leatherworking for stamina if you're tanking, or mining or blacksmithing or whatever. And if you're healing, you could make a case for blacksmithing to get more intellect. But I cannot like get behind it fully because engineering is so good. It's literally like your get out of jail free card. It's your panic button if you're in a bad place. And paladins are one of those immobile classes in Wrath. If you're just that immobile, it will hurt you so much on fights where it matters. Or if you're just like new to the fight, doing Wrath for the first time, and you don't know exactly where you should stand, like that little bit of movement can make or break literally an entire fight, because that's how important a Prot and a Holy Paladin is for you. So that mobility is basically mandatory, especially considering the fact that we're going to have a speedrunner meta. Yeah, all the speedrunners are basically just going to require engineering, and just get it. It's so good.
What if they changed engineering? So that was an interesting question brought up on the Countdown to Classic. Josh, who interviewed Brian Birmingham, and I don't know why anyone would want to bring light to that. Josh, I love you, man, and your podcast is amazing, but why you would want to mention engineering to anybody who works at Blizzard, it's beyond me. It's beyond me. I can't get behind that. But, if it was to come to light, like you've just said, where it's almost going to be mandatory to go engineering, what if they did start making changes to, I don't know, rocket boots maybe having a 30-minute cooldown, something ridiculous, or they can't really nerf the haste, because the haste still only equals out to be almost as, maybe a tiny bit more valuable on certain classes than, the raw attack power, the raw spell power that you would get as a caster. So actually, like, engineering as a whole from a personal DPS gain is not overpowered. It is I feel like it just gets a little bit more overpowered for classes that need to move. Like I gave this example actually when me and Classic Go. So shout out to Go if any boomies are watching. And as a boomie who needs to hard cast something so long as Starfire, being that guy who moves from spot A to spot B just that little bit quicker to get one additional cast out while everyone else is still running across is like, you can't even really put a DPS gain on it. You know, it's just you don't know. You might crit, you might not crit. You know, you might only be halfway through the cast before everyone else gets there. But it's like almost, it's hard to measure. But if you was to nerf it, it could almost be not worth ever using. Like, well, I mean, how would you feel, Bob? So you're NGJC at the moment on your rogue ready for Wrath. Like, if they started playing around with how NG is going to work in raids, like, what would you do?
See, and I don't really think, like, I think what pushes it over the edge is just all the different things you can use with it. Like, so maybe just add like a little something to other professions. Like, I don't want them to nerf what it is right now, because it's just the all purpose. Like, I forget who said it like this, but you're Inspector Gadget. Like, you can, like, you just got something for everything, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna pull this out, you know, like, it's just fun, and I don't want them to take the fun out of it. So I would be pretty bummed if they were to nerf things. Yeah, I'd be pretty bummed.
Yeah, and bombs, actually, I didn't even mention bombs, did I? And let's face it, you know, they're not a massive DPS game, but they're still nice. And, you know, let's hope for a broken version of Lich King Heroic so we can use them to rebuild platforms as well, because that's quite important to me.
Can I talk about bombs for a second? Because Bob was talking about how fun engineering is, and it is so fun. And one thing this is a super random tangent. I don't know why it came to mind, but I got to get it off my chest. But there's this strategy with Winter Grasp. It's called the backdoor strat, where you can basically fly over the zone of Winter Grasp, and when the fight starts, everyone just jumps down onto the base and literally the entrance door. And if you have like 40 people with engineering, the bombs in Wrath can do siege damage, which can kill the door. And you can just sit there, do one bomb, wait for the cooldown to come up, do another bomb. And if you have enough people, you can break open the door and win Winter Grasp. It's hilarious. It's so damn funny. Like, engineering is so fun. It's so fun. It's just amazing.
Once you go engineering, you never go back.
I mean,
even back in class, you know, vanilla, TBC, whatever. Once you see it, you never go back.
My druid has been engineering literally since day one of vanilla. Well, not, you know, as in classic 2019. It's been engineering, and yeah, it's not changing. It's all the nice little, you know, even a mailbox. I know it sounds daft, but just the convenience of being able to drop a mailbox down in Wrath. You know, it's those things where, yeah, or to res exactly with the combat knife. It's if you didn't have, when I haven't got it, I miss it. Oh yeah, the parachute cape as well. Yeah, maybe engineering is a bit broken. Let's stop talking about it and move on.
Seriously, stop breathing life into this. This was Josh's bad idea.
We'll leave. Well, if anything happens, everybody, it was Countdown to Classic. It was Josh that done it. It was nothing to do with us. But right, okay. So we're going to have to move on a bit because we've already gone well over. We said we was going to try and keep it to a couple of hours, and it's been that. So let's just storm through the last couple of points. We've not had any questions that I've seen come in that we need to worry about. So, this is quite a big one, I think, for a lot of people as well. So leveling from 70 to 80, and Ruggs, I'll leave you just getting on with this conversation while I grab a couple of beers, because I've done a video on this anyway. What I think's going to happen, but you know, are they going to solo like mages and that? Are they going to be soloing dungeons? Are people going to be questing? Are they going to be now spamming dungeons because there's no random dungeon finder apparently? You know, how do you think that's going to go? As I say, Ruggs, I'll just leave you taking that over.
Well, I appreciate you passing the mic, but honestly, this might be the worst topic for me to cover of all the topics on today's agenda, because leveling,
for God's sake,
in terms of like, dude, okay, well, it's not awful, but like when it comes to certain things, like I'll just be the first to admit, like that's something that I'm not like super great at. I've always been a slow leveler, and when it comes to leveling from 70 to 80, I genuinely don't know. I'm torn. I'm so torn because we don't know about RDF right now. I mean, they say we won't have it. So there's still the possibility of like walking into dungeons, and a couple come to mind for me. I think about Nexus in Borean Tundra, and then Oculus also. And I wonder if you can do Oculus with a full set of like 5 people in full Sunwell gear. Like, how fast could you run Nexus and Oculus, do 5 each, and then reset? And then you'd have to like knock out like all 5 of those runs within 1 hour because of the way that like the instance cap works. And man, I don't know. I think questing will be really good, but it's going to be super contested. Like, I don't know yet. I still need to do some more research before I'm
Yeah.
fully certain.
Use discuss. I'll be back in a sec.
Yeah, I feel like it's going to depend like how many layers, I guess, end up implemented on each server. Because, like, you know, the 30K pop servers, unless there's like, I don't know, 100 layers at least, then no one's going to be able to do anything questing wise. So then, like, you have to dungeon or mob grind, I guess. But like if it was like a normal leveling situation, I feel like questing is just the best way in 70 to 80 because the dungeons are just slower. The quests are going to give you more XP than, you know, being able to farm mobs quickly.
Right.
So unfortunately, I'm in the same boat as you. Is like I have no idea what's actually the best way or not. Like TBC made it easy for you because you'd be crazy not to run the dungeon at least up to honored, you know, before you start doing quests in the in the area. So I mean, it's like you know that made it easy to know what you should do to be the most efficient. But honestly, it might have been faster just to quest straight through in TBC, but you were never going to try that because you wanted to make sure you got honored before you used any of the quest rep. And now reps are going to be real different with, you know, tabbers and everything else.
Mhm.
And I just think the questing gets really fun in Wrath. Like you get to like talk to the freaking the Lich King, and you get to interact with different, you know, I don't know. Questing is fun, so I just know that I'm gonna quest. That's all.
I think
That's
most
all
of
I
the
know.
quests are designed really well compared to, like, especially like vanilla questing. Now that was like just literally a chore. But like wrath questing, you're like next to the quest area. You got kind of go back and forth in like little chunks of quests. It's much more like linear, I guess. And so it's easier and faster.
The questing hubs in Wrath are really good. That's for sure.
Do you think mages are going to be solo leveling in dungeons?
I have no idea.
Probably. I mean, we always say, "Oh, they're not going to be able to do it this, you know, this time around." What do? They do it.
I'm not saying they're not going to be able to do it. I've done it. So yeah, it's an interesting one because I like I say, I put a video out. It's quite a while ago now. It's a couple of months. I should probably do a little bit of an extended version of it, but as a decently geared, just tier 6 geared, few bits from Sunwell. We're not talking like full phase 5 bis. You know, I can solo Utgard Keep, and I can average a full quest. So what you need to think about is your server pop. You know, how easy are you going to find it to do quests? Is it going to be flooded? Are you going to struggle, you know, killing mobs, tagging mobs, getting quests handed in, whatever? You know, I was averaging a quest every 90 seconds to 2 minutes. So from just soloing Utgard Keep on my own, on a mage, bearing in mind, so 2 big things to think about here is, firstly, I was playing on just a bulk standard Trinity Core server, which had a lot of bugs. As in, it's my own one. It's not one of the private servers you play on. So if I blinked, I ended up outside the instance. Like, you know, I'm being serious. I would just go through the floor. So I had to do it without being able to blink, which as a mage is quite difficult. And I was still averaging sort of, a full quest's worth of XP every sort of 90 seconds to 2 minutes. It more comes down to getting locked out because, you know, I also was doing it quite quickly. But when you think about being full bis as a mage, and maybe even if it was 2 of you, soloing something like Shattered Halls instead of actually going straight to Northrend, and you was literally pulling 15, 20, 30 mobs in Shattered Halls, AoEing them down, you know, I could see that being a thing. And that's what they're all going to be trying on the beta. You know, let's be honest. They're going to try to keep that meta going, and I genuinely think they will. And I think Drakfaron Keep will be a good one to do it in as well. Even though there's a few casters, you know, I was doing it at level 70, by the way. So even like just going in at 70, I could kill 2 packs in tier 6 gear. So I do think it's going to carry on. Where it's going to be and those sort of little like ledge jumps where they all run backwards and forwards. I've not put enough time or effort in because it don't interest me. I'm not going to play a mage, so it doesn't matter. But I've not put enough effort in to try and find those sort of things. But I definitely think it's going to happen, and I do think it's going to be like Shattered Halls into Utgard Keep into Dratfaran Keep. That would probably be my guess. But in terms of actually my opinion on leveling, I actually think just flat out mob grinding is going to be number one. No matter what your server population is. Like, it's just the first level 80 back in original Wrath of the Lich King just literally sat in Grizzly Hills in a tomb and grinded to level 80.
As far as the fastest to 80, yeah, that's probably the way to go.
Yeah. And it will be someone who's got their second account, with a healer on. So they've got no downtime. Because let's face it, you could go to Ice Crown at level 70 and just spam heal your main character who's killing, and even you're getting an extra buff and stuff as well now. So I think that could be. I think that's probably going to be the quickest way. And I've got two particular. It's nothing to do with actually the first guy who got to 80 either. I've got two particular zones, areas going from one to the other where the spawn times, if they're going to be the same as sort of private servers, where it will be insane. And one of them you'll probably be very familiar with in terms of skinning. So, in Sholazar, the Gorillas, where you've got like literally you only have to run, let's be realistic, 15 seconds, and you've got another 8 mobs. You're like running between 2 packs of mobs, and they just spawn instantly, and you're getting a full quest's worth of XP just from killing a pack at a time. So I think we're going to see some weird shit when it comes to leveling. Anything else to talk about leveling before we move on?
One thing I want to say about leveling is in Wrath, battlegrounds give experience. And I've seen some really, really fun times when it's like it's like Warsong Gulch weekend, and you just spam Warsong Gulch with some of your buddies, and as long as you guys are winning, the experience is not bad. I don't know if it'll ever be like the meta, like the best way to go, but just something to keep in mind, just like one fun thing about Wrath I just wanted to throw out there.
It's not something I would have ever thought of, if I'm honest. Yeah, not like. But I suppose if you've got a pre-made, pretty much where you're just going in and winning every game ridiculously quick. Yeah, who knows? Again, that's going to be the good thing about the beta. I think we are going to see. We're going to see things that it don't matter how many years combined between us that we've been on private servers. We're still going to see some things where we're like, shit, how have we not done that before? I really do. So, all right, moving on. We've got two more points, and then we can let all these people go and enjoy their day. So the achievement system in general, it's going to be a very broad topic because there's nothing specific I want to point out about the achievement system, but it's more like, how do you feel about the amount of content it adds? And, are we going to see things like, looking for one more Nax Link achievement? Are we gonna get that in Classic, do we think? And just how you feel personally, as all of yous. And I'll start with Bob. Like, how do you feel about the achievement system? Looking forward to it? Indifferent?
I love achievements. I'm looking forward to it. As far as the Link achievement, I don't think that's going to be a thing nowadays. I think it was a thing back then, at least for us. The reason it was there is because the majority of people playing the game sucked at the game. So you at least wanted to know they had done it before, like, or had gear. Like, that's why you looked at gear score. Like, lots of people just did not know how to play the game. The game is completely different now. I would say the majority actually do know how to play the game, at least a moderate level. So, I mean, people had no idea even how to spec their classes back in the day. Like, they weren't looking up, what to do. They were just doing, oh, this looks good, like. So I think we're in a completely different age. I don't think that's going to be a problem. The only problem I have is that it's not going to be account wide, and I hate that. Like, I'm not going to want to do certain things on other characters just because it's not account wide.
Yeah. What about you, Ruggs? Achievements? Are you much? I don't know. Are you much of an achievement sort of whore, or you're not bothered?
No, I never have been, but that's probably just because private server life is very recycled. You know that at the end of the day, your character doesn't really mean a lot, and you're just going to go on the next fresh server once it drops. I think Classic will actually change my experience of achievements. I think I'll actually care again, and I think that's fun. Like, Wrath does a really good job of like making achievements exciting right from the beginning too. How you are limited to gaining that specific amount from doing all of the Nax achievements. For example, both 10 and 25 man, all the tier 7 ones. You can get this mount, and as soon as Old War comes out, the mount is gone. And I'm expecting them to have that interaction in Classic Wrath, and I think it's fun. I think it's really cool. I don't think it'll be something that I'll be doing a lot of or care too much about, but the fact that achievements are going to be in the game definitely adds another layer or another reason for you to log in and play with your friends and do bosses a certain way, do heroics a certain way. And I know that there's a lot of people who are already farming up a bunch of stupid different reps and a bunch of stupid different achievements right now on TBC, which that is insane to me. Bob raises his hand. Bob, I knew you were an achievement hunter. I knew it. I could tell. But I'm excited for it. And I do think that achievement linking will likely be the replacement for log linking. I think people will just be like, link the achievement for this raid instead of a send logs to get an invite to a PUG or GDKP raid. I kind of think that will be the new meta.
Yeah,
So
I was gonna say what Ruggs was gonna say was that I do think the linking achievement is gonna be a thing because it's just easier than looking at someone's logs. They can link it in game and you can look at it versus, clicking out and like looking them up or
But
whatever.
everybody will have the mod that just lies.
yeah, that's
know
what
what
I
I
was
mean?
about
Like,
to say.
That's
But
what
on the
people
basis
Yeah.
that
say,
you've
but I've
got the
never
fake
seen
achievement,
it.
I
People
used to
say
use I
it,
used to
I've never
use it
don't
on
know
ults
about it.
all the time. I
Okay,
honestly,
you've
I
used it.
literally,
Stop
I used to
You're the
use it all the time.
problem.
Yeah,
You're the
no.
problem.
I am the problem on ults. I'm talking back during original Wrath. Yeah, I would link on ults. I'm sure it was called fake achievement. I'm sure that's what he had on was, and it's just It just created a random date, said that it was completed by a character. You linked it, and job was a good one. It's not to say that I didn't have it already. It was just it saved re-logging. That
I do
literally
feel
was what it
like
was.
that was something that was good when they changed achievements to be account wide. If they did that, then maybe, I don't know if it would be a good change or not, or just, because people don't want to do achievements, have to log on their main. I've done this raid.
I think what it comes down to for me personally is when they're already making the game very alt unfriendly, more alt unfriendly than private servers. Let's say, I think having account wide achievements is just a no brainer. It just should be there because there's two big things that I'd like to see added, and that's like outside of account wide achievements. Because I just think that should be a thing. You've earned the achievement. You can link, and it will say, like, if Ruggs has got RUGSZ and then his alt is Rugsy, it will say that it weren't Rugsy that achieved it. It was Ruggs. It was his main, so you know that. And it will show the date that he done it on his main, so it's just an alt. But at least he's going to know what he's doing, which that's the most important thing. So like that, but also heirlooms. I think we should have the heirloom tab. Because, I know it's a resale edition, but, heirlooms are a nightmare to keep track of. Like, for me personally, I buy it.
In the mail.
Yeah, lose them in the mail, or they're on a character that you ain't played for ages, and then you forget it's there. The heirloom tab is just, if you've got heirlooms in the game, what is the harm in having an heirloom tab so you can keep track of them, And account-wide mounts as well. I think, if you've gone and you've got Mim's head, and then you're on your alt, you want to be on that mount. You want people to know that you've got it on your account. You're not going to want to get it again, are you? The odds of you getting it twice is pretty slim. So for me, account-wide achievements, mounts, and heirlooms is important. What do you think, Tara? Go on, take it away on all 3 points.
I feel like I just don't. I think those are all like good convenience things that don't like break other aspects of the game. Like most people could probably agree with that. All the people that are going to be like, no changes. Like Blizzard's already changing it, so like you don't have to be like locked in to that, mindset. Really, it's going to get changed. There's definitely some things that could just make it more convenient.
Yeah. Bob, what's your thoughts on that? As someone who's, spent a lot of time on Classic, this is now this is taking a step closer to retail, if you like, but not really I just don't think it's in a bad sense. But what do you think?
You're talking about specifically the mounts shared across all the characters?
Yeah, just things account wide in general,
I just like account wide for a lot of things, for like mounts, pets, even. Like, I think that's a neat thing to have account wide. When you start this is now getting into the part where, you have the mount tab and you can collect a ton of mounts. Now, I've unlocked a ton of mounts, but I've only bought like one of some of them I don't even buy, as I'm waiting till the tab, because there's no way I have like 35 slots in my bank to have every cat, every every one of the different ones, and you're gonna want that for the achievements. And then why not have it on your other account? Like, you're never gonna want to if you love achievements, you're never gonna want to switch mains. It kind of locks you in, and it kind of makes you feel trapped at that point. So, I think when people talk about retail changes, I think some people loop me into a category of retail equals bad. I don't think retail equals bad. Like, each different thing I could have a different opinion on. Like, there were some good changes. There was a lot of good changes done throughout retail, in my opinion, and this is one of them.
Yeah, I agree. Rugs, have you got anything to add to that?
Yeah, I have a bit of a tangent, but I promise it's relative. So someone commented in my stream last night and they were like, "What do you think about adding transmog to Classic Wrath?" And my response was, "Well, wanting transmog is cringe, but what's even more cringe is not wanting transmog in Classic Wrath because you want it to be pure." Like, at the end of the day, who cares? Like, these changes, like the transmog change or like anything that you've just said are like all great ideas that don't affect the game and your like in-game experience of like playing and like PvPing and raiding and leveling and all those things. Like, it has zero like negative side effects to it. So like, it's fine. Like, if you guys want it, go for it. I don't care. I'm indifferent. I think it's great. If people want it, get it.
I hate transmog so much, though.
I'm with you, Bob. I'm with you.
Oh God. But I do have a thing, because a lot of people love it, and I got a quick, easy fix. Client side, you can either toggle it on or off, and then if I toggle it on, I can see your transmog. If I toggle it off, I don't. Like, super easy. And then, I mean, transmog competitions could be fun. There could be a lot of things fun with it, but I don't want it on at all times. Like, that's where I get just like, no, like it doesn't feel like that expansion, But yeah, I could go on about transmog. Everybody thinks I'm crazy for hating transmog, but
I'm with you. No, I think it's our old school gaming mentality coming out. If I'm honest, I think that's what it is. Why do you need to look like, if you want a transmog set, it means it's something that you've gone and got before, then just equip the gear. And then you can look like it when you're running around. Technically transmog's in the game now.
Yeah.
If you want to stick your old tier set on and walk around with it, yeah, it's your RP set, exactly. But at the same time, what Ruggs is saying is absolutely right. It's like, well, it doesn't make a difference, does it? If you want to put it in the game, at least it's a nice little gold sink, with how much gold there is in the economy in classic servers at the moment. It wouldn't be a bad way to actually at least, get rid of a bit of that gold occasionally from different people. So yeah, for me, it's one of those where if it was there, I wouldn't probably use it myself. But yeah, it's not going to hurt me, is it? If people really, really wanted it, then yeah, why not put it in?
Right, and like some people want account-wide achievements, some people want transmog, some people want account-wide mounts. Like, all these are like an improved barbershop, like they're adding, but none of that affects the game. What it does affect the game is like removing RDF. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, exactly. That's far more game breaking than something that's cosmetic. Cosmetic just don't matter, does it? For the vast majority of people. Less so
Right.
if you play a druid. Then you really don't care. Is that like, that's why I've never really cared about transmog. Why do I care what my character looks like? I spend 95% of my time in cat form. It just doesn't matter. I don't even get to see it anyway. But anyway, so achievement system, like overall, yeah, I think is quite. I think is a really good addition. I love achievements, and me personally, again, I've always been one of those that speaks their mind. I had the unpopular opinion back in the day that I think achievements actually should have been included in Classic. As in 2019 Classic, the achievement system should have been there. Well, you'd have had something else to do outside of raid login. I don't see, again, it's not one of those things that's forced on you, is it? It's just there. It's just the system. If you want to use it, use it. If you don't, whatever. Just ignore, pretend it's not there.
Yeah,
but leading on from... Go on, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, go on, sorry.
I was just going to say that there are some people that like, making a bunch of alts, and that's how they play the game. And there's some people that want to like progress their one character, and achievements is just another way for them to just time sync, And it's the same with transmog too.
Definitely. I mean, I know somebody, he might even be watching the stream now. He's done the insane on Synergy on 2 characters. 2 different characters. Why?
That's insane.
Why? I mean, the server's got about 100 people now that play it. He's got 2 characters with the insane. But, that's what he enjoyed. He enjoyed doing it. It was a challenge, and someone literally said, "What the fuck, is he okay?" I don't think he is okay.
Is he okay?
I think he's got some serious problems, if I'm honest. But what can I say? This is, each to their own. And then our very last point before we just go on to sort of anything else, and then we all bid you all farewell. Realm firsts, and I've got quite a big issue with this, so I should probably go last. But realm first and transfer into low pop realms to get them. So going on to going on to practically a dead server just to guarantee that you get realm first druid level 80, and then moving back to your main server and stuff. Like, do you think that the way realm first work now are a little bit dated? In like, should it be a bit more arena style where it's the top 0.5%, the top whatever, I don't know. How do you feel about that? Tara, we'll open with you this time. Put you on the spot, why not?
I don't really have a strong opinion. I'm not someone who even really cares about realm first, even for rating. Like, I'm honestly casual anyway. But maybe Rugs would have more of an opinion on this one.
All right, we'll pass it straight over to Rugs. Go on, Rugs.
So, if I understand it correctly, if you transfer servers, you should be locked for 60 days from obtaining any realm first. That's how I currently understand it. If I'm wrong, please correct me. But assuming that is how it works, people will transfer to low pop servers to try to steal some realm first. Absolutely. Whether that be like a raiding realm first, although that would be a bit of a stretch. It would probably only be like a group of 10 people trying to get some realm first 10-man thing to happen. But I think it's fine because realm firsts are actually kind of cool, because there are some cool realm firsts in Wrath, that being the realm first level 80s of each and every class and race, which all have their own individual cool titles that come with them, and the realm first crafters. Like, if you're the realm first 450 first aider, you get the doctor title. You're the only person on benediction with doctor in your name. Like, that is awesome and unique and cool. But I do think, Scotty, I think your idea of making it maybe if it's a bit outdated and just kind of keep it to the 0.1% or whatever the number should work out to be, I think that's a good idea too when it comes to maybe like the PvE oriented realm first. But I think a lot of that will kind of work itself out in general with Warcraft logs, kind of telling us who are the 99 parsing guilds in terms of progression and things like that. So I kind of see both sides.
Yeah, but I don't want to say it was my idea. Is it like I'm not that bothered. I personally like, I've got multiple. If I was to log my retail account on now, I've got multiple realm first achievements that can never be obtained again, which is nice. It does make it more impactful. But it's more on the basis of if you can move into dead servers to get realm first. Back when I got them, was not really. I don't remember it being a thing. I don't even remember it being discussed because all the servers, while some were factionally not particularly balanced, they weren't dead realms. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now you can look at realms where, they'd struggle to get a raid together. You know, they're really bad. But Bob, I mean, what's your opinion on the whole sort of realm first? On the basis you're going for realm first fisherman, what do you think?
Well, am I crazy or for some reason excuse me. For some reason I remember it being wasn't the server on the Realm First achievement? Wasn't that label on there of what server it was on? Am I crazy or
No,
was it
definitely
just a
not.
Realm First?
Just realm first. Technically, you could get two realm firsts, on the for the same thing. Technically, I'm not saying anyone ever has. It'd be interesting to look up though. But yeah, it's not server.
Okay.
It's on that server.
For some reason, I thought it would say the server you got it on. So if you did transfer, they'd know you didn't do it on Benediction or something. But yeah, maybe I'm crazy. But so if that's the case, then that means there could be two doctors. If they just keep coming over to Benediction. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I don't care. Whatever.
I don't care.
Honestly, if they want to go through that much work it's the same with the rank 14. There were people that moved over and got their rank 14 significantly easier. Tons easier than it was on White Man, and then came back. If they want to go to that much work, I mean, they kind of earned it at that point. I don't know.
But you're right in what you say. I mean, technically, your server should only have 25 people, that have got Realm First knacks. But actually, you could end up over the course of Wrath or over the course of the expansions, you can end up with 500 people that have got it all on the same server. Yeah, I've not even thought about it like that before. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, maybe label them so you know what server they did it on. I don't know. I mean, that'd be pretty easy, right?
Think about Scarab Lord, and I know you could obtain multiple Scarab Lords back in Classic, but all of the people, and I use Benediction because that's where I play. I always use it as an example, but there are a lot of Scarab Lords on Benediction, way more than there should have been, because people obtain them on their other servers and then transfer to Benediction, and it's just populated with 100, Scarab Lord people just run around everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and back in the day, most of us didn't even know you could do multiple on one server. So on our server, there was one mount. But I was so surprised to hear when we came to Classic and wait, multiple people can do it? And guilds actually held us back extra time so that they could get more Scarab Lords. I was we were so pissed on White Mane. It was just come on, dude.
I mean, Sam in chat just had a good point. It's well, if you, but then again, even that don't work. It's if you transfer off, then you lose the achievement, But then eventually, if your server dies, should you really be punished and lose your achievement because you've been more or less forced to move? That also wouldn't be right. So I don't know. It was just a little bonus one to throw in just to see how you feel about Realm First, because it did change. Ultimately, throughout the expansions, it has gone a little bit more, I want to say, flexible, where it is multiple people can all get similar achievements. But is there anything else? We said 2 hours, it's been 2.5, so we'll wrap this up. Is there anything else you want to add, Tara? We'll just go around the table.
Not that I can think of. I think we covered a lot, broadly.
Bob, are we all good, my man?
Dude, we're great. I had an absolute blast. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for turning up. I mean, you're away. You're in a hotel room. You could be out getting absolutely hammered. Instead, you just sat talking to us. So, yeah, amazing, mate.
I
Thank
love
you.
Classic, man.
I know, and we love you for it. And I do encourage everybody to check out Warcraft Reloaded. As I say, there will be links to everybody who's on here on the screen at the moment, all their socials, no matter what, whether it's a podcast, streaming, YouTube videos, whatever. It'll all be in the description anyway, so make sure you go and follow them. Rugs, anything else, my man?
Man, I just got to say thank you. Like straight up, Bob, like thanks for being here, man. You're a legend. Like you're goated, and we're just like super, super lucky to have you. And we're honored to have you on, man. It's been a lot of fun. I hope to have you on again because you've been great. And then Tara, of course, like thanks for saying yes to the invite. You're like my best friend. I love you to death, and we want to have you back on too. Like when we do shaman or hunter things, anything that like you're excelling at, we want you on for that. So
Thank you
really,
for the invite.
it was a
And
treat.
thanks
Yeah.
for having me. It was
No,
awesome.
amazing. Yep, you're all beautiful human beings. We will bid you all farewell. And for those who are obviously watching live, I'll be back streaming on Twitch in, I don't know, half hour, something like that. I'll just grab some ice, get some gin and tonic on the go, you know. So if you're not following me on Twitch, make sure you follow me on Twitch. Everybody, all of these beautiful humans, all their details will be in the description. Peace out. Oh, we've got to all do the awkward wave. Come on, you've all got to do it together at least. Don't leave me here doing it on my own now, for Christ's sake.